All right, welcome. This is the School District of Prescott Board of Education regular meeting. We have been in closed session since 6:15. We are now on item 4, Pledge of Allegiance. Vicki, would you care to lead us? Oh, the flag. Did we lose the flag? You gonna hold it for us?
This side.
All right.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Off to a good start. All right, we'll move to item 5, recognition of visitors. Anybody in the audience like here to be recognized? And if you could state your name and township. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Laux. I live in Oak Grove Township. My husband and I have been tax-paying members of this community since 2011. With all due respect, I'm here tonight to stand up for my son's right to breathe and socially interact with his teachers and his peers. As of the last Pierce County board meeting last week, it came to my attention that the board states no one is making anyone wear a mask. If a board member of Pierce County says that, then why are children still wearing face diapers? I'm asking for this ridiculous suggestion of face coverings to end tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to read to you from the only piece of literature that is 100% true. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 reads, "The Lord formed man from dust on the ground. He breathed into his nostrils the breath of life." Wow. God gave us the right to breathe, not A.Z. Snyder, not Governor Evers, not the state of Wisconsin. God formed, God breathed, God, period. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, again, with respect, no person on this earth has the right to restrict one's ability to breathe, one of the very first gifts that we're given. In addition to limiting the very basic gift of breath, our children have been robbed of social interaction. The idea that any one being can rob another being of social interaction is fundamentally egregious. They learn social interaction through socially interacting. That's how they learn to relate to other people. It's not within a child's ability to read body language or to be able to discern emotions through someone's eyes. They need to see smiles and frowns and snarls of disapproval. They're being spoon-fed fear by the very people that are supposed to help them navigate through life. The shortcomings of our leaders are leading to the downfall of the generation that you serve. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an example of predatory behavior by adults. It's psychological warfare, not to mention spiritual warfare. Children and teens need social interaction. At the beginning of the year, when the kids went back to school, and some got the sniffles like they do, my son came home and said, "Mom, the kids are afraid to sneeze and cough." That's not okay. I wasn't here in November or October or December or January, and that's my fault. But I'm here now. I should have been paying attention. This has to stop now. Please, Prescott, join the 71 and counting other districts in the state to let our kids breathe and smile again. 16 years ago, 6 months and 3 days ago, I gave birth to this little guy. And as I laid in my hospital bed by myself, I made a promise to him and to God that I would do whatever it took to protect him, no matter the cost, no matter the measure. And even if I'm going to be raked over the coals by other community members, parents, teachers, or what have you, it is the price I have to pay to stand up for my son and the other children in this community. And I really hope that those of you that are not actively listening do so. We deserve that.
Thank you.
You want my name, right?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Taslin Magnuson.
In township too, if you don't mind.
I don't know, I live in town.
Down in Prescott then, all right.
Okay. I want to talk tonight about my daughter. By the way, I'm talking with her permission. She's 15. She has anxiety. It was manageable until COVID. But COVID and starting high school changed everything. She's also asthmatic. We all are, actually. But my daughter, when she was young, was severely so. She was hospitalized twice for asthma infections, one of those H1N1. We remember what it was like to have doctors and nurses treat her, and not just masked and gloved, but hazmat suits. Somewhere inside that 15-year-old little anxious girl lives the 4-year-old little girl who remembers that too. Masks and understanding the policies and procedures that keep her safe are the one thing that allows her to try to attend school. Knowing that the adults around her are making decisions based on science and our collective welfare, that allows her freedom to breathe. Your decisions, the superintendent, school administration, with the support of the board, have made it possible for her to get through and attend school. We are grateful as a family for the consistent communication from Mr. Figge and Cassie Butler that showed us decisions and choices they were making to ensure the safety of our children and their teachers. As the year closes, sometimes you just hear from the squeaky wheels. I wish I had spoken sooner. We stand in support of the decisions at each step taken by the school administration to take care of kids and explain as best as they could to parents struggling to understand it all themselves. As the year closes, we as a family are counting on you to continue to use science and the best recommendations of public health officials to guide your decision making, as we believe you have done all along. We believe the science behind vaccinations is safe and effective. We welcome the message from the CDC that fully vaccinated people can choose to not wear their mask. We, however, will choose to mask in group settings. Why? Because in a pandemic, public health officials tell us precautions are universal, so they protect the most vulnerable. So even if my daughter and I are protected, precautions like masking create a culture of protection for those still at risk. It is a measure of respect and belief in our shared responsibilities to each other. There are children and teens who haven't caught COVID, like my daughter, who nevertheless will live with the impact of a worldwide pandemic all her life. How we teach them to care for and respond to their fellow human beings matters, whether they're here in Prescott or far away. In a rush to, quote, make it normal for our kids, let's remember something. This isn't normal. There's no amount of pretending that keeps them away from the news of a worldwide pandemic where just over 3.4 million people have died. More people continue to be hospitalized and die daily. The pandemic is ongoing, getting better, but ongoing. It's no surprise that COVID made my daughter's anxiety go through the roof. And I know she and I and our family are not alone. The COVID pandemic continues with the uncertainty of variants and the long-term health impact. My children have a right to feel safe and protected in their school and by the adults in their lives. I want you to hear our story tonight because even though we are quiet and private about our daughter's issues, we are important too. Your decisions and responses to the pandemic made it easier for our daughter and other children like her. They matter, and we are grateful to the adherence to national public health guidance shown by the Prescott School District. Science and public health are our best weapons against fear, anxiety, and COVID. Please honor children like my daughter and the teachers and staff who work day in and day out by continuing to use them as you make your decisions. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else care to be recognized? Come on down. Can you girls state your names too?
Yep, Isabella Lenz.
Sophia Tabayan. We are members of the top 10 and have attended Prescott High School and this district for 13 years. While COVID-19 has greatly affected the school year in many aspects, including the ways in which we learn and interact with others, I can confidently state that wearing a mask during the school day has not contributed to the hardships this year has already brought. We have still been able to be successful as all of us have maintained our class position and good grades even despite this pandemic. As part of the group that has arguably lost the most because of COVID-19, once again, I can confidently say that wearing a mask during the school day has not significantly contributed to the negative aspects.
At PHS, we are taught to be leaders and to be self-advocates. And if wearing a mask allows the next senior class to have a better school year next year, then we will wholeheartedly wear our masks as we have done for the past year. We are deeply concerned for the health and well-being of our town and for our country. And we want everything to return to normal just as much as anyone else. And we understand that wearing a mask is a small way we can support the health of our community. Truly, if masks were affecting our learning and social interactions severely, we would have advocated for ourselves long ago. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I just wanted to, my name's Kate Otto.
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to follow up with our roundtable discussion meeting that we had, and we had discussed a few things. So I just wanted to ask and request that some of these things do actually happen. I did request a COVID focus group, kind of like we've done for the buildings and things like that in the past. I think it'd just be a good way for the board and the district to hear everybody's opinion. Obviously, we have both sides here tonight, which is great. That's the best part about America, is we all have an opinion. I think that would be a great and reasonable request. So I'm requesting we put together a group to hear what the community is saying. I'm also asking for you to send out a survey to the community. I know the community in New Richmond did that. They sent out a one question survey asking if we want to continue with the masks or make it a choice. The community overwhelmingly responded with the choice, and they actually did change that decision. So I think that would be something that Prescott community could do. You guys are our elected officials, and that would be a good way for you guys to hear what the community is saying, right? And then maybe vote as elected. I'm also asking you to take a more active role in making the decisions for our school. I really think that's important, and I think that since the meeting, it still kind of hasn't happened. So I think we should just focus some energy on that. Finally, I would ask that you dig a little deeper into the toxic culture within the school district. We also discussed at this roundtable meeting how many people are leaving, some of the issues that are going on. I think you're going to find that that our culture needs way more work than any of our buildings do. So please try to focus your energy on building a solid foundation of trust and open communication between the teachers, admin, and community versus trying to sell us on another referendum.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison Eniga. I'm a mother of 5, 4 of which could be attending school in Prescott this fall. My family has sat on the sidelines watching the well-predicted movie of quarantine life, contact tracing, hypocrisy, and over-testing play out for many of Prescott kids and families. I've listened to the frustrations of parents over the many inconsistencies between the school and lack of transparency of the COVID plans. I have witnessed with my own eyes decisions being made by the board and administration not to be followed by the same people. I chose to keep my kids home, along with several other parents, because of the negative effects that masks have on kids' mental, physical, and emotional health, along with the chaos and lack of structure being in and out of school. Now, I'm not blaming that on teachers, as that is a direct result of the craziness of contact tracing, which hasn't even proved effective. I personally give the teachers a lot of credit for what they have been asked to do this year, teaching students in school, in and out of school at the same time. Honest to goodness, I don't know how they did it. But I am concerned moving forward with teachers that are still afraid of our children if they don't wear a mask. Most teachers are fully vaccinated by now. How are we going to solve this problem? How do they get more protection if they are vaccinated? They can certainly wear a mask too, but there's absolutely no logic or science that would explain why kids need to wear a mask to protect a vaccinated masked teacher. There are differences of opinions, that is for sure, here, and the only thing I can think of to solve the problem is allowing parents to have the health freedom to make choices for their children. There are 71 schools now in Wisconsin that have made masks optional, including Hudson and New Richmond. We also have 326 signatures on a petition to make masks optional in our districts. In previous school board meetings, you have stated that you watch what other surrounding schools are doing and take advice from the Pierce County Health Board. I was on the Pierce County Health Board meeting last week, and they said, and I quote, "The mask suggestion will soon expire and clear up a lot of these questions." They only referred to it as a suggestion. I then asked the question, what is going to happen next year when cold and flu season comes about? Are they going to make us mask? The VP, John Albert, all but laughed at me and said that was an irrelevant question. Nobody is making anybody mask. If our school follows the Pierce County Health Board's suggestion, then seriously, what are we doing? We need to make masks optional moving forward and never taking that right away from the parents again. I feel that this school board does not represent the other part of the population that believes in health freedom. We need to be part in the decision-making process. Parents want to know what plans you are making for next year. We want to know what policies you will be putting in place, and we want to be a part of those decisions so we can make the best choices for our family. I ask you, is there any one of you sitting on the stage that represents people like me and the 326 signatures on the Make Masks Optional petition? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to be recognized?
Hello, I'm Tracy Collins. For those of you that don't know me, I live in the city. I first want to start off, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I first want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to every teacher, every aide, every administrator, nurse, cafeteria, custodial, transportation, counselor, office personnel, and everyone that has been a part of this school year. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being present and helping our children to navigate this school year and come out on the other side of it. This school year has not been easy on our staff, our teachers, or our students, our administrators, or parents. Navigating the ever-changing information on COVID, the mandates, advisories, and soon-to-be recommendation is simply mind-boggling. Many people that did not have to deal directly with business, schools, or the health department have no idea the amount of information and direction that you must comprehend and sift through to make decisions in order to stay operational. Through most of this school year, I know there's been a lot of opportunities for this district or administration to act any differently than there has not been a lot of opportunities for this district or administration to act differently than they have. Masks were required regardless of personal beliefs. Not everyone agreed, not everyone disagreed with the restrictions, the quarantines, and the all-around protocols for navigating COVID this school year. Fortunately, we're coming out the other side of this now. We're no longer living in September where we were unsure how COVID would spread to our children or how it may affect them. We now have an effective vaccine that everyone aged 12 and older can get if they want to. We know that close contact quarantines may not be as necessary as we originally thought. We know that most people who get COVID will be fine, and most likely only have minor common illnesses from this virus. We also know that the current advisory from the health department is scheduled to end on June 4th and become a recommendation. I would like to note that the advisory is enforceable by the health department, especially for schools and businesses. I feel you have no choice but to keep the mask mandate until then for our schools. However, a recommendation has no enforcement attached to it, and I did get this information directly from A.Z. Snyder at the Pierce County Health Department. Now that we know, I am asking you to, as a board, to make some decisions that will benefit the majority. Please make masks optional starting June 7th on Prescott School District grounds, for summer school, for next school year, and for any events or sports hosted or attended by our district students and staff. If there are openings for summer school, please announce that to families and let them enroll. If you choose to make masks optional. I know many families did not take advantage of summer school this year due to the masks being a requirement. I also know some families that enrolled but intend not to send their children if masks are still a requirement. While I am asking, I am also asking that we reinstate in-town busing for the 2021-2022 school year. I've been dropping off and picking up my 3 children at 3 different schools all year long, and I don't think this is safe for the majority of our students to be walking to and from school. During the winter, they were walking in the middle of Kinnickinnick Road to avoid cars and the snow that was piled too high to navigate safely. There are very few sidewalks for children to walk on, and there are so many children walking alone, leaving them vulnerable to unsavory characters. Children are most vulnerable to stranger abduction while walking to and from school. Thanks for letting us speak, and another huge thank you to everyone who showed up and was present this school year. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? While we're at it, is there anybody else besides the lady coming up here? Just so I want to get a kind of a count, because we got a pretty lengthy agenda tonight, but I want to keep you guys.
All right. Hi, everyone. Kelly Engeldinger. I have nothing prepared because I wasn't going to come up and talk. I have a few things that I would like to say. First off is I know it's been an amazingly hard year for everyone. Teachers, school board, this has not been an easy year to make decisions. And it does go back and forth, up and down on what's required, what's not required. But at this point, as a 24-year veteran, I am not required to get that vaccine. I am not required via HIPAA to say that I have or have not been vaccinated. This, I understand doing it through the end of the year. I do, because right now you've got parents that want to make sure their kids go through the graduation line. You've got kids that want to play in sports and they're afraid of quarantine. Truly, that's what they're afraid of, is quarantine. So if the mandate has changed as far as what quarantine is and what the mask mandate is, we have to change it all. These kids should be able to do that. But go ahead, keep it through the end of the year. But don't, this has got to stop. We have to make an arbitrary decision that we're not going to take a suggestion. Because as you've seen, right, everybody in Minnesota clearing it up, they're even opening it up. Walmart, Menards. And if it's a teacher that's scared, if it's a person that's scared, we all have an individual responsibility for our own health. I don't tell my kids that they have to do what you do in your family, what you choose as a family to do. I vaccinate. I generally do. This one I won't do till it's FDA approved, but I do choose to vaccinate. But because other people don't, I don't have an issue with them not doing it. I'm not going to tell them they have to do it. And the same, sorry, because I have nothing prepared, this is a little bit hard for me, but the same goes for all of it. Everybody has to make their own choices. If you're afraid, wear a mask. If you are compromised, you wear a mask. Generally, a mask is supposed to protect yourself, not other people. Everybody touches them. The germs have transferred. We have all touched this podium. The germs have transferred. In the military, I take a chemical warfare training. We are not protecting ourselves by this little piece of cloth. That is not how we're being protected. So in closing, we have to give all of this a huge consideration. Let everybody make their own choices. I'm not going to tell you that you should or not be afraid to go check the mail. I tell my kids, don't stop checking the mail. I'm not going to tell them that because a car can come around our corner because we live on a curve. Don't check the mail because that car could come around quick and you could be hit. You can't stop living, and that's ultimately all of this is doing. Will my kids still wear a mask? They will, because they're conditioned right now too. And as they said, it's not affecting 2 of the 3 of my kids. 2 of the 3 of my kids are in school, getting A's, having a great time. 3rd one, not so much. It's not working for everybody. So I feel like you have to decide that those that feel that they need to do it, you do it. Just like we have not been able to mandate up till now that people have to have vaccines to go to school, right? We no longer do lice checks. We no longer do MS checks. There's so many things that we've learned over the years are not effective and should not be done in a school setting. These are things that a parent needs to decide. These are things that a parent needs to figure out, not the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, so I'm going to take one more, if that's okay. We're going to get down to business. If anybody else would like to join, and then we'll move on.
Hello, my name is Mindy Alsop. All 3 of my kids have been in the Prescott School District since 4K. We decided to keep them home this year and attend an online academy simply because we wanted some consistency, and I knew there would be a lot of back and forth due to close contact and etc. I also didn't want them to wear a mask all day long. My kids have missed school and their friends and would like to go back in the fall. I didn't think I would have to worry about masks in the fall, but have heard that teachers are asking that students wear masks for summer school. I really don't understand it. I am under the assumption that the majority of teachers have gotten vaccinated. Why would the students need to wear masks then? Haven't they suffered enough? Everyone always argues that decisions are being made based on data and science, and I'm still waiting to see evidence supporting the fact that masks work. However, there is proven and factual information out there reporting that there is no way that masks could work. Physical properties of medical and non-medical masks clearly suggest that they are ineffective due to the difference in size between COVID virus particles and mask thread diameter. The virus is 1,000 times smaller. I feel there needs to be a common sense approach to protocols. I understand at the beginning there were too many unknowns, but now we should be making decisions based on data. We now have therapeutics and things that will help. It's time for our kids to get back to some normalcy. All of these COVID restrictions have been detrimental to our kids' physical and mental health, and we need to start doing what's best for them.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you, everyone, for the comments. We'll move on to item 6, good news. Dr. Spuzza.
Patty, are you ready?
This month, the Student Council put on the Spring Fling or Spring Fever, which was an event we held outside. It included relay races, dress-up days, and other activities for students to participate in. Another action we took this month was starting a diversity initiative. It started with creating a survey where we surveyed 296 students, and we found that 44% of students have witnessed discrimination, and another 14% have actually experienced it within our school. Because of this, certain actions we decided to take include creating a diversity pledge to make Prescott High School aware of this issue, as well as allow students and faculty to be held accountable and to educate each other on the issue. Another action we are taking this year is creating a mural that will hopefully be painted within the school to encourage diversity within and inclusivity within our school.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate all that work. Principals?
Eddie took some of mine. No, I'd like to celebrate our all of our students specifically. The spring fling that Maddie talked about was amazing. One of the things she left out was the fact that the celebration and really the recognition should go to the student council, who put in hours and hours and hours into planning and executing really an entire week. It was great to see the Sunday locker decorations. Some of the pictures are on Twitter, and all the students who came together and the staff who came together all throughout the week just to celebrate our culture and have a good time. And I don't know, Dr. Spikuza, is this our time we want to bring up our top 10 to recognize them?
Ideal.
All right. That would be probably my biggest celebration tonight. So if we could have our top 10 students, or at least our top students who were able to make it tonight. This is probably my favorite school board meeting. There are a lot of them that I love, you guys, don't get me wrong. But this is my favorite one because we get to recognize and celebrate our students who, wow, for the past 13 years, I feel like have done everything they possibly can to strive to be at the top. And there are just very tangible things that they do in the classroom. But as you guys saw on the court this year, as you saw in forensics meets, as you saw in arts, which you'll see in the musical, as you saw even being civically engaged tonight, these students do a lot of intangible things too that make them leaders and really great role models to our younger students. So I'm very proud of the students we have here tonight. I'd like to bring them up, have them introduce themselves, and I think maybe talk about where they're going and what they hope to do in the future would be appropriate. All right, and Walker drew the short straw, so we're gonna have Walker go first.
And
all
the
right?
third thing you had is one great memory about Mr. Figgy.
On the spot. Okay. I'm Walker Lenz, and I'm going to the University of Minnesota next year to study computer science. And one good memory about Mr. Figgy, I guess, I don't know what year it was, but I think it was our sophomore year. We have like an introductory day, first day of school, and then Mr. Smith made a video of him riding on a motorcycle to school, so that was pretty fun. But, yeah.
I'm Isabella Lenz. I'm going to Michigan Technological University next year, and I will be studying scientific and technical communications.
So, no memories.
My name is Sophia Liebakken. I will be going to the University of Minnesota to study biomedical engineering, and probably my favorite memory with Mr. Figgy was when he gave me a hug my 4th day of senior year because I walked in late and I was crying. So.
My name's Sophie Tabayan. I'll be attending the University of Washington, Seattle next year for public and global health. And it's always fun watching the teachers play dodgeball, so that's my favorite.
My name is Connor Lubick. I'll be attending Mankato, and I'll be studying nursing. And my favorite thing about Mr. Figgy is when he shaved his head.
I'm Marissa Jansen. I'm going to the University of Minnesota next year, and I'll be majoring in pre-vet animal science.
Hi, I'm Delaney Sanford. I'm going to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm studying psychology. My favorite memory about Mr. Figgy is when I would give him my food from our global cuisine class and his reactions to it.
All right.
90% of the food was really good.
Well, congratulations.
We got one more,
Oh,
right?
that's right, Maddie.
Okay, I'm Maddie Tabayan. I'm going to the University of Arizona for chemistry. And one of my favorite Mr. Figgy memories is when he was a referee for one of our chemistry football projects. So.
Well, congratulations to all of you, your hard work, and on May 28th, Friday night, you will be graduates of Prescott Public Schools. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'll be quick, but I got a plethora of things to celebrate here. We got a myriad of cool things going on. So I'm Matt Smith, Activities Director, Assistant Principal here at Prescott High School. Starting off with track. Our girls have been first place in 3 straight meets, so exceptional job to them. Our boys took second in Ellsworth meet last week, so congratulations to all of them and their hard work on a tremendous season so far. Both our baseball and softball teams are near the top of the Middle Border Conference. Boys are tied for first currently, and girls are sitting in second, a game out. So it should be an exciting finish to their seasons here, and wish them the best of luck. Hopefully, a few conference titles coming up there. Boys golf, hitting their strides. They'll be hosting the Middle Border Conference tournament next Monday at Clifton Highlands. Looking forward to that. Our trap shooting team is having a great year overall, and they have state coming up here in June, so best of luck to them. If you look up at the pictures there, a couple of things that we want to highlight. Some fire truck victory tours. We've had a couple lately. Both our forensics team and our dance team taking some victory tours there for gold balls that they won, so congratulations to both squads. And the National History Day. Congrats to Emma Fiedler, Delaney Sanford, Marissa Jansen, and Bessie Schumer on winning the Local History Award, so kudos to them. And then a huge shout out to Mabel Roll and Erica Jennings, who took first place at National History Day State and will be competing in the national competition in June. Looking at musical, we got the Songs for a New World here this weekend in the PAC. Tickets are available online. The musical cast has been working very, very hard on that, so we're excited for that opportunity. The band concert a couple weeks ago here rocked the house. Kudos to Mr. Canfield and the bands for that performance there. And then next Wednesday we'll have our choir concert in here. So a lot of cool things going to end the school year that we're very excited about, and a lot of celebrations to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Igo, middle school.
Good evening, everyone. In your board folders, and I'm not going to pull it up and play it tonight, but in our good news section, there is the videos from Nora Bowles and Makaria Haas and their scenario, for their award-winning scenario writing state bowl speech. So if you get some time over the weekend, you guys can listen to that. They're absolutely wonderful, wonderful pieces that they did. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is I'd like to thank the middle school parent committee for all of the great things and the way that they recognize the middle school staff during Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, May 3rd through the 7th. The Prescott Middle School staff really appreciates everything and the way that the parent committee has supported us throughout the year. And they were absolutely spectacular during Staff Appreciation Week. So thank you to them for everything that they've done for us in the year, and especially for all the great things they did for us that week. Academically, as we are winding up and wrapping up the year, we have completed our forward testing. Last Friday was the last day of that. And then today was our last day of our FastBridge assessments. We eagerly anticipate all of these results. They're going to give us a great starting point, and we're going to look at this data over the summer to give us a great starting point of where we need to start out at next fall. So we're looking forward to a lot of great summer work from the data that we just finished up taking and collecting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Igo. Malone Elementary, Sarah Dusick.
Good evening. At Malone Elementary, we're gearing up for the end of the school year with a lot of fun different activities. Second grade just did their walk to Dairy Queen to get their dilly bars and treats. And kindergarten and also fifth grade at the intermediate building are gearing up for their graduations to send them on to their next buildings and their next grade levels. We're also working on our on welcoming third grade to Malone Elementary in 2022. We've started having the third grade teachers come down and observe some of our phonics lessons using the new Foundations curriculum. And they will be starting to use that curriculum next year as well in their classrooms to help with the shift down to the elementary building in 2022. I would also like to thank the Malone Parent Committee for honoring our staff and appreciating them during this Staff Appreciation Week a couple weeks ago as well. All kinds of goodies and treats and lunches and donuts delivered, and the staff really appreciated it, especially after this crazy kind of year.
Intermediate school, we celebrated Arbor Day by planting over 100 trees with our third graders at the MIS campus. Big thank you goes out to Carrie Sizemore, who's really put that together, and it takes the entire year. So in September, we are ordering trees. And then we had some guest speakers. Israel Haas and Greg Len made an appearance. So thank you to both of them for spending some time with our students, and Mike Hoika and the custodians for marking and making sure that we had a safe area to dig. And we should be able to enjoy that for generations to come. Malone Parent Committee, we met last week with elementary and intermediate, and we started our initial planning for a back-to-school bash. And we're looking to do things a little bit different this year, doing it in conjunction with orientation night. We're also looking at the possibility of having some food trucks, the popular Scholastic Book Fair, and a dunk tank with an administrator or two volunteering. Shifting over to teaching and learning, testing season, as Mr. Igo says, slowly dragging to an end here. We have AP language and composition remaining. And just thank you to all the students and proctors for attending this important task, as again, it allows us to improve as a district. Grants, it was recently announced by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation that Kyle Schmidt was we are one of 28 districts that got a Fab Lab grant. This is a 1/3, 2/3 matching partnership with community businesses. So thank you for Kyle as a first-year teacher taking that on, and then working in partnership with our businesses across the district. And Penny with a grant.
Yes, Penny Peterson with Community Education, and piggybacking off the grants. Probably about 15 years ago, I worked with the city in doing a grant to resurface the tennis courts down at the middle school, and they are in desperate need of being resurfaced again. So I heard that the city was doing that, and as part of Community Ed, our goal is to connect with community and engage them, and so knew that pickleball was a huge want and need and desire of members in this community. And so I wrote a grant to the Prescott Foundation, and they awarded us $1,000. And so that will just go right to the city to help pay for the lining of the courts, and then the city agreed to pick up anything extra that might have been over the 1,000. So wanted to thank them. And then if I could just a little bit more, just as long as I'm up here. I just wanted to give kudos to organizations and some community members. We are trying a new program this summer called the Summer Park Program for ages 10 to 14. Kind of piggybacking on what was said earlier about some of the social, emotional things, and that we felt like the middle school group really kind of got hit hard with that. And so once a week in June and July, we're doing activities for that age group down at the middle school park. So I just threw out an email to the organizations in town to see if anybody would be interested in kind of adopting a week and hosting a week and planning the activities and running them. And we had 9 different organizations step up within the first 3 days and filled all the weeks. Another one couldn't do a week, but they, thank you, New Adventures, are paying for the yard signs that we're gonna put up at the park advertising it. So now we just need to get the kids to come, but it just shows how much our community really cares about the kids and about the community as a whole. And so I just lastly wanted to thank, we have during this last year, we had 2 Community Ed board members retire. And so I just wanted to give kudos to Cindy Cashman, who for almost 30 years has been in and out of the Community Ed Advisory Board. She was on the original steering committee that decided to bring Community Ed to Prescott. So she has now fully retired, and so is no longer serving with us. And then also Diana Simon retired from the board, and she has given us 18 years of good insight. She did a lot of our trips and stuff. So So really appreciate those two community individuals and all the time that they gave the community through the community ed program.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you, Penny. Mark Inouye with Special Services.
All right, one quick good news and then a kudos that I wanted to throw out. First of all, last Tuesday we held a virtual transition event where the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation talked to some of our parents and students about some post-high school supports for students with disabilities. It was fairly lightly attended, but I do think that all the parents that attended were able to get some really good information on supports and some things that can help students with vocational and work practices after high school. And then secondly, last week on Wednesday, so a week from today, was National School Nurse Day. And I just want to give a kind of a shout out to Cassie and also to Mel Charette. I can't think of a crazier year to be a school nurse, and I really just appreciate all that Cassie and Mel have done this year to keep us safe, up to date on the always changing guidelines through our state and our county, and so just a kudos to Cassie.
All right, if I could have Michael and Josh come back up. So we received the proclamation for the Fab Lab grant. And I just wanted you to share again, there are 420 districts in the state, and we have received how much money with regards to investing in our opportunities and programs here, and then the community partnership.
So we've got about $38,000 that we'll receive for this Fab Lab grant. I think for the district, sole kudos has to go to Kyle Schmidt, who as a first-year teacher, took it upon himself to learn the community well enough, seek out partners, have a vision for what he wants this department to be moving forward, and then execute it in a very, very short timeline, and obviously in a year that there's just a lot of other things going on. However, I'd be remiss to say there's another side to that, and that is our community partners. So we have a lot of small businesses, and then we have some large businesses that were very, very gracious with their contributions and their donations to helping us match. And the creation of this is going to be astounding for students. It's a multi-year plan that Mr. Schmidt has that will go from really kind of the design phase all the way to the production phase, all the way to the business phase. It will bring in multiple different departments. So he's partnering with Mr. Nosbush, who's our business teacher, with the school store, with students who can then design their own products, make their own products, manufacture them, sell them to community, and start generating revenue for our school store and for the technology department. None of that would be possible without Mr. Schmidt, without this vision, and without this Fab Lab grant. And I know it was an extremely, extremely competitive process and a competitive group that applied for the money. So the fact that we got everything that we were asking for really, really just highlights how much he put into it and how well he created that grant himself. So just, again, a big kudos to him.
And then one other aspect, Michael, can you speak to also the long-term plan of having community engagement?
Right, so
and
part of this grant was that you have to have community engagement, and part of that engagement is going out like Kyle did, and he went and spoke to our businesses around what are the skills they're looking for, what are the things that kids need to have coming out of high school. But the other part is really creating a Fab Lab with a vision of inviting our community in. So as I've spoken with Mr. Schmidt, part of that will be through community ed and offering community ed classes, and then potentially looking at other models and what other districts do where it may be one weekend a month. I know that some of them open it up and there's a nominal charge for you to come in and be able to use the tools and get that training for our community members to come in and be able to work on their vehicles, learn about general things around the house, electricity, things like that. So there's also that part of the vision, and that part comes after we get our students and our businesses and that partnership. So I know he's already looking at a summer school class that he has created around this, and he's already looking to next fall or next spring to offer a community ed class to have the community in our school and seeing what our Fab Lab does for our students, but then also can do for our community. So thank you to Kyle for that as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
That's
gentlemen.
really excellent.
That's for you. Post at the school. I just have a few quick points. Maddie, I just wanted to ask, is this going to be your last meeting, or are you going to join us in June?
You don't have to. I guess I really didn't think that far, but I'm down for coming for June.
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank you for your service and input throughout the year, in a very difficult year, but also congratulations on being part of the top 10 along with your sister, and just your outreach and continuing to advocate and put the voice of the students at the school board has been very helpful and appreciated. So I wish you well, and if you're here in June, we welcome you. And do you know if the student council has selected the rep for next year?
We have not yet.
Okay. All right. Just a couple public service announcements. I wanted to thank both just Pierce County and also Cassie Butler. We did have some of our senior students before the new opportunities for students 12 plus being able to get vaccinated. We did have a community outreach. We did vaccinate over close to 50 additional adults within our community as we continue to put COVID behind us and try to turn the corner. And you'll see over the next couple of weeks and even within this meeting some of the changes that will be in place as we move forward after the end of school on June 3rd. We do have 2 walk-in clinics that are available. One is a walk-in clinic, the other one you do have to register. The walk-in clinic is part of the Mayo Clinic Health System down in Red Wing, and that is tomorrow from 11 to 6, which is May 20th. And then there is also a Pfizer vaccine that is available on May 26th. This will be at the Pierce County Fairgrounds from 4 to 6, and appointments are required. Those can be found on Pierce County Public Health or on the Prescott Public School website. Obviously, the more our community and we continue to drive the COVID rates down, the easier it will be for us to put in place a more normal and refined program for the fall. And everything we can do as a community is appreciated. That is all I have for tonight.
All right. Let's go to business. We'll go to item, I guess it would be on the list here, 7A, consent agenda. I got to read these off. Recommend the school board minutes. We have board checks. We have personal hires. We have selection of depository for investment funds. Designation of an official newspaper and publication of minutes. Renewal of WIAA annual membership. Renewal of food service agreement with St. Joe's. The 66-30-30 special ed shared service agreement with River Falls. And adjusting the end date for Mr. Smith. These are all in the consent agenda. Is there anything that the board would like to be pulled out for discussion? Not, I'll adopt the consent agenda. Are there any objections? All right, the consent is adopted. Thank you. Item B, retirement resignations.
Yes, at this time we have 2 submissions for resignations, a middle school special education teacher, Megan Burlingame, and also our ELA teacher, Angela Schaefer.
Board, any questions?
I'll say a couple things. Megan's been with the district for quite a few years, involved with the district. I think a special education teacher is kind of a more difficult situation in a lot of cases than a typical classroom teacher. And I could be wrong about that. I've never been a teacher. But I do see how difficult it is to find special education teachers and keep them. Megan wrote the board a well put together letter of resignation. I certainly appreciate her feelings from that standpoint, and I really wish her the best. I hope she finds happiness and a great situation for her and her needs with her new district.
Anything else? All right, let's take one motion at a time here.
I'll move to accept the resignation of Megan Burlingame, special education teacher, effective June 3rd, 2021.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. Another one. Ms. Schaefer.
I move to accept the resignation of Angela Schaefer, middle school ELA teacher.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that one carries. Employment?
Yes, at this time, we're welcoming 3 new individuals to Prescott School District. We have a high school science teacher who's been a long-term sub and has competitively proven himself, and that's Matt Rankin. Secondly, we have a high school counselor, Emily Spofford, and then Hunter Black, that will be an elementary teacher. One of the nice things about Hunter is that was part of our University of River Falls outreach, where we were working with student teachers and then signed them on as long-term subs, and then had right to first refusal if they were a good fit. And so we have an opening, and he's a great fit for us, and so we'll need 3 motions for each individual.
Any questions or comments, board? Okay.
I'll move to approve the hiring of Matt Rankin for the position of high school science teacher.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries.
I move to approve the hiring of Emily Spofford for the position of high school counselor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries.
I move to approve the hiring of Hunter Black for the position of elementary teacher.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you. And it looks like there's no, oh, we had that already. Okay. So that moves on. So now we're on to item C here, elect board officers.
Yeah, so the next section is on an annual basis, 30 days after the election, the board is required to reseat the different positions. And so you're up for aligning the 4 positions of president, vice president, clerk, and treasurer.
So first one.
I'll move to elect Mike Matzik as president of the school board.
I'll second.
And I gotta ask, I gotta remember this. You gotta say it 3 times, right?
Yep.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you, everyone. For vice president?
I move to elect Steve Sizemore as vice president of the school board.
I'll second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? And are there any other nominations? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. So clerk. Gotta remind me, who was clerk last year? Pat.
I'll move to elect Pat Block as clerk for the school board.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. And lastly, treasurer.
I move to elect Tanya Hullab, treasurer of the school board.
Second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Make sure you get all that recorded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that carries. Takes care of board officers. Thank you, everyone. We're on to item D, set date and time for the school board meeting. And this has been at the 3rd Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. I think that was changed a year or 2 ago. 7 p.m. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Anybody want to make any changes or discussion on that? All right.
I move to designate the 3rd Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. at the Prescott High School as the official date, time, and location of the 2021-22 board meetings. I did choose to delete PAC only because at some point it'd be great to move back into the library.
I will second that. I agree. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That one carries. Item E, select board rep for PHS graduation scheduled. Do we need to select reps?
Well, we'll call it an invitation. We'd really like to have you there.
Right. Is there anybody, I guess, I'm available to go, but I think last year we had 3 of us there. I think, you know, whoever wants to show up, if we have more than 3, or if we have 3 or more, do we have to have that posted then?
Right. So the main reason is if you have 3 board members at the same location, we just have to make notice. Obviously, there would be no business occurring, but it is a ceremony, and we'd like to have you there if you're able. And it will be in the gymnasium, and families have multiple invites, so we'll have a full house.
Can you remind me of the time?
7:30.
Thank you.
Well, but you got to be there at 2 for photographs and everything else. So.
As a board representative, we would ask that you're there 5:45 for pictures with our students.
Perfect.
Well, I'm always honored to be there, so I'm in.
So should we just email if we're going to be there and then put something, post it if there's going to be more than 3 of us? Or do
I
you
don't
need
think you're
us
going to have a
choose?
problem having board reps at the meeting. I really don't.
Well, is
So-
there anybody that can't make it?
I would need to check my schedule with my kids. That's the only thing.
Okay. And Steve's a go?
I would go too. So, I'm not sure we need a motion on this one though.
All right.
So, let's move on. If that's all right. Let's go to item F, select delegate to attend CC11 annual convention, June 7th, 2021. Steve, what are you doing on June 7th?
I am not available. Thank you for asking.
You are not available? This is really you.
This is your wheelhouse, and I don't know if I...
What time of day is that?
I can guarantee you're at a meeting.
I am.
Yeah.
Is
I'm
it
not
during the
available.
day?
No, it's evening. I think the start time is 7 in Turtle Lake.
Is it virtual, or is it...
It is going to be in person.
I
All
cannot.
right, do we have anybody that can make it? I'm out, Steve's out, and Tanya's out. Putting you on the spot.
I probably can, because it's on a Monday, right?
Yeah.
It is a Monday.
They usually have like lemonade and water and snacks and stuff. And, you can meet some other board members. It's kind of cool little networking.
You trying to bribe me? With
No, just giving you the lay of the land.
Yeah. Since I don't work on Mondays, I can get up there on time.
I move to delegate Vicki Rudolph as the representative to attend the CISA 11 annual convention on June 7th, 2021, Turtle Lake.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Thanks, Vicki.
Yep.
Item G, consider the adoption of the SSO food service program.
Yes, at this time, it's an honor to invite Maggie Schmidt to the podium. She is the new food service director. We were going to introduce her last month, as you remember, but the baseball called, and so she was with her husband and son at the baseball fields. So first, if you want to just introduce yourself to our community and to our board, and then we'll move to the SSO program.
Sure. Hi, I'm Maggie.
Go a little closer to the mic.
Sorry.
Yep.
I'm Maggie Schmidt. I'm the new food service director.
Nice introduction.
Thank you. And he won that night, so. Well, I would like to propose moving to the seamless summer option for the school year 2021-2022. As you can see, I brought in a slide to show the comparison of the reimbursement rates for next year. Currently, we are receiving reimbursement rates for all students. This is a free meal for all students, reimbursable meals. And currently, we're doing breakfast at $1.89 reimbursement and lunch at $3.51. That increases next year. So the USDA is mimicking the summer food service program reimbursement rates for the seamless summer option. So this is a good opportunity for us to be able to collect a higher reimbursement rate. One thing to think about is the fact that any second meals, a la carte, they will still be paid items. So this is a free first meal, reimbursable meal for students. We already switched to the seamless summer option at the beginning of May, and we have, sorry, I keep going backwards here. We have successfully been able to get a lot of students involved in it. The elementary schools have increased a lot in breakfast participation. I have seen participation increase at the high school as well, and I am optimistic that that will continue next year.
Great. Tanya, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to, my understanding is that for this program, you don't have to qualify, you don't have to fill out any paperwork, that this is available for all of our families within our district without asking any questions.
Correct, although I would still collect the applications for educational benefits for other reasons. So,
Sure.
But yes, that is correct. You do not have to fill out any paperwork or submit anything.
All right, great. This is a wonderful opportunity for us, and it just carries over from the summer. We help make sure our kids are getting nutrition. I know for some of our kids, this is one of their only meals throughout the day is here at school, so it's great to offer this.
Steve?
Just curious, so we're talking about 2021, 2022 for this. What's the prognosis for years following that?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know. I know that there has been some talk in Congress about possibly extending universal free meals for all students, but that's talk right now. There has been, we hope that that will continue. I don't know how it will look going back to it, but currently, I think we should take advantage. I think that it would be good.
And since you maintain your own budget, it looks to me like this would help your budget.
Yes, yes.
With some significance, so that's good. Thank you.
Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Vicki?
None.
I do not have any questions. Thank you. Very nice to meet you. Thank you. We'll take a motion here. Let's see further dialogue.
I'll move to approve Prescott School District participate in the extended SSO food service program for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you.
And just one clarification, Maggie, if you don't want to. So in May, we did switch May 3rd to the end of the year, but you also were able to take retroactive steps. And so could you just explain what families received back into their accounts and what the dates encompassed?
Sure. As soon as we switched over and were approved into the seamless summer option for the beginning of May, I worked with DPI to reimburse families back to February 1st, so retroactively. Any family that their student received a reimbursable meal, we were able to put that money back into their account on Wordware, and so it was a big surplus for the families.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, this is something that we didn't, mention in our discussion, but just the financial impact that lunches and breakfasts have on families and stuff. This is great to be able to give back to our community and make sure that they can use that dollars, especially in these times of need, in other areas. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to item H, consider district safety protocol for staff students enrolled in 2021 summer session.
Good evening again. So at the last board meeting, the board wanted some information from our registrants, so I just wanted to walk us back through the where we got to with our safety protocols and how we got here. So part of this conversation came from recommendations from Pierce County Public Health. Also, the May 18th State of Wisconsin Department of Health and Safety guidance for schools that was provided, and I know that was in your board packet as well. Part of that conversation that we had with Pierce County Health, and myself and Cassie Butler had the conversation with them, was that a lot of what we were doing at the elementary level was the recommendation that they had for us going forward. Again, 6 feet of distance in between individuals for indoors, or cohorting students and trying to keep those cohorts 6 feet apart, because part of it is that contact tracing will still be something that schools are responsible for assisting county health in. Equipment, one of the areas that there was some movement was with the proper hand hygiene of washing or sanitizing before and after. The actual cleaning of the equipment in between, they did not feel was going to be as much needed. And again, we were talking mostly about outdoor flag football, fun in the sun games, bag toss, things like that. The recommendation was that face coverings within the building should be 100% and on the bus. And that outdoors, they really felt that outdoors isn't that big of a threat, but if for some reason we're going to have our flag football, if after every play the kids are going to huddle back together, and with young children you're explaining the play for 5 minutes, that could potentially add up. So the recommendation was if for some reason that would happen. Part of it is that we then look at these recommendations, and I've talked with some of my teachers already, and we would avoid doing some of those type things. But then we also need to monitor the symptoms and do that contact tracing as needed. And part of it is we do have our licensed nurse on site right now during the school, but during summer school we do not. And the county health felt that if we had a highly qualified staff, and they define that as someone who's been well trained and has seen the symptoms throughout the school year, and right now our administrative assistants are qualified because they have been working with Cassie and students throughout the entire school year for that. So that's where some of the recommendations came from, and they align to, again, what we've been doing. So communicated to parents prior to registration and at registration was that at that time the cohorts would be in place as they are right now. Pods of up to 6 kids that would have closer contact. There'd be some sharing of equipment between those pods within the classroom. Face coverings again in the building and at the bus. Again, if you're eating or drinking, those are the exceptions. And then outdoors only if needed. But again, we would change our protocols to ensure that that would not be the case. But again, that was communicated to parents prior to the registration, and then at registration reaffirmed. So there's in several places that was sent out to our families. The safety survey that was sent out, we have 347 K-8 June summer school and 149 registered swimmers. And again, our swimming is July and in August. And I know in some of the slides and then even in the motion it talks about the June summer school, but realize that at the secondary level we do have classes that go into July. Some of our accredited science, geometry, those classes. We have a July driver's ed that's indoors. So we do have summer school that's going on throughout the school year. We have speed and strength that goes on all the way through August. And again, we have August swimming. So we have 496 total registrants though in that K-8. The family response, we had 185 families, 115 of them responded. So that was a good number. Again, school perceptions in the fall presented that generally acceptable is if once you get over 40% of people to respond, typically your numbers are not going to change drastically from that. So this was sent out to all those families, and they were given an opportunity to share their thoughts about what we had. Some of the things that we know post the updated recommendation about the fully vaccinated individuals is that we do know that not 100% of our students are vaccinated. We do know that not 100% of our staff are vaccinated. We do know that summer school participation is optional for students, and we do know that summer school participation is optional for staff. Since the recommendations came out, I had not had a single registered family reach out to ask questions or to change the response. So just wanted to share that with you as well. So going on to the survey itself, there are a few questions. So first, the way that it was worded was if the following safety protocols, and these were the ones that, again, we laid out prior to registration, were not in place. So if we were to take those protocols away, how likely are you likely to have your students still attend or not likely? And as you can see here, the not likely, the hand hygiene seemed to be important to our families, as well as the extra cleaning of the school in high contact areas, Those were the higher areas. The no cohorting and the physical distancing were a little bit lighter on if we weren't to cohort, if we weren't to physical distance. Again, part of that is we'd still have to do the contact tracing, and the cohorting and the potting when it is in school allows us to do that more efficiently. And then the next question, and it was asked two different ways. If face coverings were not required, and if face coverings were required. So not required is on the left, required is on the right. And then you can see a few little percentages there, and then some N counts. So the N is the number of respondents that actually responded, and then the N prime is if we were to apply that to the 496 total registered students, what would be that number? So I just want to pause here and give the board some time to just look at those graphs, and before we go on to the staff, if there's any questions we have either about the previous data or this slide that I could clarify for you.
All right, I do want to clarify, okay, Michael. So on the left, we'll just use N is 55. So there's 55 responses out of 100.
Out of 183 students that responded.
There was 183 students that responded.
Yep, 30% said we would not have our children require summer school if face masks were not required. That equivalates to 55 of those 183 students. If we take that 30% and apply it to all of the students that are registered, that number goes up to 149 students that would not participate in summer school if face masks were not required.
Okay, so you're kind of extrapolating based on the data that you have?
Correct. Yep, so taking the 62% of respondents and that percentage and applying it to 100%.
So you're basically saying if the same pattern of responses applies throughout the whole enrollment, this is how many kids would not come.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
So we know for sure 55 would not, or at least they said they wouldn't, and we're predicting based on the data 149 would not.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then on that right side is just the opposite of that. All right, and then surveying our teachers. So 34 teachers responded to the survey. That's 94% of the teachers that have volunteered to teach summer school. And same questions. If we had no additional hand hygiene, no cohorting, no physical distancing, and no additional cleaning, would you still be interested in teaching or not? And again, teachers are the backbone of if we can offer programming or not. Teachers aligned right with the families, though, is that additional hand hygiene and the cleaning of high contact and shared equipment they felt were more important than the cohorting and the physical distancing. And again, the same question. If there was no required face coverings, half of our teachers said that I'm not interested in teaching summer school any longer. If you do require them to wear face coverings, 100% said or responded that they would still teach summer school.
Okay, so this one is just the raw. I mean, there was 34 teachers out of what, 35? 36?
Yes. Yep. 36.
And that's the raw numbers.
Yep. So if you wanted an N, it would be 18.
All right.
18 of our 36.
I know we asked you to do this, and I appreciate this after our last board meeting to get some more information about face coverings. I'm assuming this went out, but I want to know for sure before the CDC changed their guidelines, or was this sent out after the guidelines changed about?
This was sent out prior to the CDC guideline for fully vaccinated.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. But again, as I said, I have not had a single family or staff member reach out post. And then the last slide here is the financial impact of summer school. Summer school is a 3-year reimbursement model. So that means we get state funding for 3 years based on our summer school numbers. There is a formula of how many minutes of instruction do you offer into FTEs or And then those FTEs are paid out a little bit differently over those 3 years. Year one, you'll get a 40% reimbursement. In the table at the bottom, you can see that's about $3,250 per kid. And then years 2 and 3, we get paid out at 100% rate, which is the 81.25. Again, those were estimates that were provided to Renee from the state prior. The final numbers have not come out, but those are like the bottom number. It might be a little bit higher than that. As you can see, our FTEs in 2019, pre-COVID, we had 71 FTEs. One thing we noticed is that we had nearly double the amount of staff that were teaching summer school, and we had quite a few more students participating in summer school in 2019. Then 2020, that dropped to 47 FTEs. And you can see the financial impact and then the total at the bottom there. So we went from about $1.4 million in funding down to just under $1 million. And based on the number of students we have enrolled currently, and these are conservative numbers, but this is what we believe we'll have about 30 FTEs. I'm hoping I'm wrong on summer school if it runs. But again, that's still a $600,000 impact to the district.
Okay, Michael, anything else?
Unless you have any clarifying questions for me.
Okay. Tanya, I'll start with you. Do you have any questions for Michael, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm looking at the financial part right now, and so I'm seeing roughly about, I don't know, basically we're going down FTE, we're predicting that of students enrolling in summer school. And so we're predicting that's related to COVID.
Yes, there's a number of families that have said that after wearing masks for the year, because of those protocols that are in place, they weren't interested in doing that, extending that into the summer. Yep.
Do we believe we would capture some of those families if that changed? If our masking changed? Is that what they were saying?
I imagine we would capture those, but then again, you would lose on the other side, and I don't want to predict what that would look like.
Yeah.
Yep. But financial is one. It's really a three-prong approach. You know, it's about learning and providing. There are some learning gaps, and how do we fill those? We fill those during summer school and giving extra programming. It is the socialization and how many kids can have that social interaction with each other, and then it's the funding. So I think for the board, it's a three-prong approach that you got to think about.
I don't have any other questions right now. I'm just taking.
Steve, do you have any questions?
Nothing specific for Michael, thank you.
Pat, any questions or comments here? I think we'll go around again a couple times, I'm guessing, but.
Probably not at this point, Mike. I do have a question about busing, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to talk about that.
For busing for summer school?
Yeah, busing for summer school.
Sure.
Are we going to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we going to bus?
Yep, are we going to bus and are we going to bus in town?
We haven't bused in town before.
We haven't
For summer school?
For summer school, we have never
catchment.
bused in town. We've only bused to the busing that we have right now is what we've always provided for summer school.
Okay,
and we will continue to do that this year as well.
We would continue to do that? Okay,
Yes.
all right. This is probably an unfair question. Do we have, if some of these students that we're counting of FTEs are enrolled in the swimming programs at Ellsworth, do we know what the protocols for the pool and the swimming program are?
Yes, I've had 2 different conversations, and their protocols have changed as well. Part of it was, at first it was their locker room would not be available, only a restroom for students. So we discussed having our students come in their swimsuits, and then they'd have to leave in their swimsuits as well. The nice thing is we do this at the intermediate school. We do have locker rooms available, so students could potentially change just before and change after. But they have opened up their locker rooms. They're not big by any means, if anyone's ever been there. So some of it is just how do we then, if we're going to pod our kids, is how do we then use, rather than having a mix of kids in there, is we've talked about by level. There's 6 different swimming levels of kids. So we'd use the locker room, level 1, all the kids would go in and use the locker room. They'd come out, level 2 could use it, So yep, there are some of those protocols that they have in place. When they're in the pool, no masks when they're in the pool. When they're on the deck, no masks as well. So the only time they would really wear a mask is on the bus and then when they're in the locker room, in that common, tighter area.
Okay, thanks. And just for clarification, the masks in their locker room, that is currently Ellsworth's protocol.
That's what that's what they shared with me, is that
And for clarification, Ellsworth School Board is meeting tonight. So they're
All right.
dealing, I talked with Barry Kane, and so they'll be releasing their updated information about summer school and their different programs.
Thank you.
Vicki, any questions for Michael here?
No, I don't think so.
Or additional comments or anything at this point? No. Maddie, I think it's you. Did you have anything that you wanted to ask Michael? Any comments? Okay. Michael, I appreciate you coming up here with a lot of data. It is very helpful and it's informative to me as well. I don't have any questions for you in particular, so I mean I think you're good if you want to sit.
I'll stay close just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, it's at the board level now. What do we want to do? And I can pick on somebody to start, but if there's anybody else that would like to voice their opinion first, now's the time, I guess. Otherwise, I'm going to pick on you, Steve.
It's fine. It's going to take a little bit. Sitting up here on this board, it's very often difficult to separate the board work and maintain business and personal. And I'm going to do my best to keep the personal out, but I guarantee by the end I'm not going to be able to do it. This is really a mask question. The meetings we've had the last 2 months in this building with this board have been mask questions, regardless of what anybody else says about it. I'm going to start off with a little bit of concern regarding the district. It's a little off topic, but bear with me. We've talked about our buildings, exterior and interior. I went through 36 months of board minutes because as a board member and a community member and a parent, I wanted to understand what's going on within our buildings. And I'm going to share just a little bit of data. Everything I'm talking about is readily available on our district website. And I didn't know what I was going to find. Quite honestly, I expected there to be a spike this year in activity with our staff. So I didn't look at percentages. I looked at dates, May through April, because that's the time we're in. I wanted to get 36 months. I also included May because those numbers just came out, obviously, in our agenda. I looked at HR activity. I'm not talking percentages, I'm not talking turnover, because we have so many different buckets of positions within the district. I do have a full-time job, so what I do at night, I do what I can. So just think about total HR activity during the year, hires and resignations or retirements. May 2018 through April 2019, 79 changes of position one way or another, people coming into the district or leaving, okay? May 19 through April 20th, 74, all right? So it went down by 5. May 2020 to April 2021, 70 changes. So again, the number went down, all right? May and April tend to be kind of higher months for turnover. We've got contract changes and people are deciding if they're going to stay or go somewhere else. April 2019, we had 6 changes. April 2024 and April 2021, 10. All right. May of 2018, we had 23 changes that month on our agenda in the minutes. May of 19, we had 9. May of 20, we had 12. And May of 21, we had 7. So looking purely at data that is publicly available to anyone listening to this, it's going down. Do we have issues in the buildings? Of course we do. Any business, anyone who works for a company, you have employees who work with you who may not like their jobs. They may not like their bosses. They may not like the direction of the organization. And we're going to see that. I thought COVID would have spiked these numbers, and I was kind of surprised by that. So that's the data, again, readily available. We're not perfect. This board is not perfect. We have to make difficult decisions every month. I don't think anyone up here is going to sit here and say we make all the best decisions, because we're just not perfect. We try to work with the data we have. We try to support the majority of the community, vocal or not. You know, one thing you have to understand is everyone sitting up here, we all have jobs. We have day jobs. So expecting a response from me within an hour during the workday for me is not going to happen. And people just have to understand that. With the mask, with the summer school discussion, we're also talking about staff. We're talking about coaches who are staff. We're talking about teachers. And they all have their opinions as well. I can tell you that 3 days ago, I was leaning very strong towards making masks optional for summer school. Giving parents the option to say, listen, my child wants to wear it, my child doesn't want to wear it. My child has health issues, my child doesn't have health issues, whatever the case be. The problem that I'm running into is the personal side. You know, I also spent several hours working on a three-pronged approach, that since you mentioned 3 prongs, to look at Building and Finance Committee, Internal Communication Committee, and an External Communication Committee. And I put my time into that and was essentially identified, and it was suggested that it kind of may be okay, but people are just kind of, you know, whatever, nothing's going to change. We have to look at things in a global view. Internal buildings, yep, we've got problems. External buildings, do we need roofs? Yep, need roofs. Some people want to do a recall election for the board because of masks. That's certainly right. People want to remove Dr. Spikuza as our school district superintendent. People are suggesting they're going to vote for a no referendum because of masks or because of Dr. Spikuza or whatever reason, you know, and that's everyone's right. When the election comes up, you can vote any way you want to. But when you make it personal, and when you attack myself personally, my family personally, you lose my support. You had a board member sitting up here that was willing to work with either side to take my personal time to do that. And you've lost that. And you may not care, and this may fall on deaf ears, but that is the difficulty between maintaining personal and professionalism with this position. So, you know, I want to hear the other conversation. I haven't made a decision yet, but I can tell you I am leaning much more closer to maintaining masks because the teachers want it. The parents seem to have a lot more flexibility now. And I kind of wonder if this survey had been done after the things we know now, what the difference might be. But we don't have a mandate from the county, so we can do what we want. There was some conversation of having teachers possibly look at this individually in a classroom setting. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put this in the weight of the teacher's shoulders. I think that's completely unfair. So it needs to be decided at a board level. And I'll leave it at that for now, and maybe come back with some other points, but thank you.
All right, Tanya, stay on this side.
Yeah, I'll speak to the question we have right here, and Steve, I appreciate all your comments and your insight and your time that you've put into this stuff. I'll just say straight up, I want to align myself with what I have always said I would align myself with, which we agreed to align ourselves with as a board, which is the science side of this. And so right now, the science agencies, the CDC and agencies have made a recommendation that masks are required or should be worn if you're inside and not fully vaccinated. That's what I've always believed in, was the science behind there, and that's what the people that are scientists that are not Googling at home are putting out there. And so that's kind of just straight up, that's where I kind of put my opinion in there. But I want to do things at summer school to make it so we can wear masks as less as possible. So being outside, for example, it's summer school. When we first were in this situation a year ago, classrooms, whole schools were moved outside. And so I understand that there's weather and rain and all that kind of stuff, but I believe that absolutely whenever possible we should be outside. That provides respite for our kids to not wear masks, for our teachers to not wear masks, and all of those other things. I think that we should be really transparent with our community, especially looking at, and I'm not saying our community, I want to clarify, I'm saying to the students that registered for summer school and or are enrolled in our school district, because that's what we're talking about right now for registration, or have this the option of summer school anyways. And I believe that we should be really transparent and put it out there. If there's a class that cannot be held outside, let's say cooking or something, like, let's be honest about it and say there's a mask that's gonna be required in this class because we're not outside, if you're not fully vaccinated. But I like to align with that, fully vaccinated, it's optional. I think that I saw in that survey pretty clearly that that teachers as well as families that have students enrolled we're looking at wanting additional cleaning of equipment. That came back really clear. We didn't plan on doing that because we weren't asked to do that, you know, so we planned on easing up maybe a little bit there. I think we need to reinstate that because that's what people are asking us to do, along with the hand hygiene, making sure that we're really careful with that kind of piece too. Our families are asking for that as well as our teachers. I will say completely, I echo Steve's concern here, if I understood it correctly, which is I'm worried about this slide right here with teaching. I'm really worried about that slide. If we do not have teachers, we cannot teach summer school. And you're right, Michael, this is not about the finances. The finances is the part that as a board we have a lot of responsibility with. It worries me. We're looking at, not quite, but close to a third reduction. That's coming out of our budget somewhere. Like that's a big deal for us, and we can't forget that piece of it. And I worry that without teachers, we're not able to offer, we're tapped out. We might have to turn some families away from summer school. We can't just have endless amounts of kids in classes without teachers. So I'm really worried about that, but I am curious what teachers' viewpoints would be if fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks, if we moved, and let's be honest, we're talking about elementary is where there'd be more masking. Can we have kids outside? Which classes can be offered outside and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to think creative about that. But as a board member, I agreed at the beginning of this year, I think it was maybe Dr. Spacuzza back in August, that I would align myself with the CDC guidelines and the guidelines of the scientists. And right now that's saying that masks are optional if you're fully vaccinated. So that's my current opinion, and I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say.
Thanks, Tanya. Pat? Tanya, just to piggyback on that right there, and maybe this is a question for Michael or Dr. Spacuzza, right? We are likely not in a position to be able to track students who's vaccinated and who is not, correct?
Or
I mean, that would
staff,
be
for that
an
matter.
additional burden that we're not prepared to undergo. Okay. With that being said, and again, I'm not voicing my, which way I'm going to vote. I want to hear everybody out here, but a couple things for me. Michael, you made a great point that summer school is not mandatory. It is not required. And in my opinion, then, I believe that we need to make it most available to the majority of our people. Tanya brought up a great point about the finances. It is not the most important. It is certainly something that needs to be considered, though. I also will say that whichever way, my opinion goes or my vote goes, I don't think that this sets any precedence for me personally for the fall. It has no bearing on my opinion when we hopefully don't have to make that decision. I also am not interested in, and I like the idea of making it optional, but I'm really worried and not interested in having our teachers have to make that call. I don't want them to not feel supported or be criticized for how they feel. So that would be really important to me. That's where I'm at right now. And Vicki, I think you're up.
Okay. The part of the real telling sign of all this is that our teachers decided to teach summer school understanding that masks would be required. And we're right. If we don't have teachers teaching, we don't have kids that can attend. This is summer school. It's optional for everyone. The teachers who are okay with the masks decided to teach. The teachers who didn't want to continue on didn't sign up to teach summer school. I think just getting through this, it was so close to the end of school, everything it's changing on a daily basis. there's new information every day, and I'm hoping that by the fall, this isn't going to dictate how our schools operate. I really, really hope that we can change come fall. But right now, I think the survey, parents went into it, they were asked. It's optional for them, the teachers, it was optional. I think what was decided ahead, I think we have to honor what our teachers signed up for.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Was it in our registration for summer school, did it state that masks would be required?
All right.
Let me follow up on that question if I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Who made that decision?
I'm guessing it's the administration.
Yeah, that was made in conjunction with the conversation that I had with the county and then the recommendations at that time.
At the time, right?
At the time, which again, that starts back in January. Yep. So based on what we knew at that time, that's what was shared with parents. When it came to registration in March, that still was the law of the land, and that's what was shared with parents at registration as well.
Yeah, exactly. You go with what you know at the time, and that's what you went with. So, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to try to stay on target here, but Michael, you put together a great set of slides for us with facts, our data, survey data, and it was very helpful. And I'm going to call out that I wouldn't expect Michael or Rick to come to us with anything other than recommendations that fall within guidelines from the health department, or even, if we backtrack up before April, from the state level. I made some comments last month too about some of the resolutions that we made, recommendations that were put forth. And I just want to point out that our administration comes to us with recommendations that I would expect them to come to us with. I would expect you guys to come to us with recommendations that follow state law, state statute, state mandates, county mandates, or advisories, whatever you want to call it. I would not expect our administrators to go outside those boundaries. I think that discussion needs to happen at a board level, and that puts us as accountable to assume the risk of liability. So I want to call that out because I think it's important for us to know that the administrators are coming at us with the recommendations that I would thoroughly expect them to come at us with. And then the board takes that and we do what we think is the right thing to do. And we did pass 3 resolutions last month to support that. Here we are talking about summer school, and I'm going to get to my point. There's 2 things in here that I want to tease out, and I want to change to get my support. I'm going to go back up to the slides here. The outdoors, I think my preference, and this is my stance, is I think we would remove face coverings for outdoors altogether. Let's just do away with it and move on. So that would be one thing I would like to see us agree on or compromise on. And then the other one you guys kind of hit on, and I'm waffling back and forth a little bit on it, but I'm gonna throw it out there, and I want to ask you, Dr. Spicuzza, a question on this. And it was brought up by several of you guys about mandating masks indoors and in the classrooms for summer school. And I want to ask a question here, and then we can have some further dialogue. But what if, so we have, with the teachers were 50-50, right? Correct. In whether or not they would teach summer school. And I want to ask a question. If we were to say that we I guess, left it up to the teachers to decide whether or not they want to mandate face coverings in their classes, how much does that change if there's students that they don't want to, be in a class without masks, with masks, whatever. How easy is it to shuffle around and make changes to the summer school program to try to continue to provide the best enrollment that we can? Because numbers are important. These are dollars we're talking about, so we want to try to maintain as many students as we can in summer school. So I'm asking you, like, how difficult is that? What's the pulse of the teachers that we're hearing? Is that something that they would be willing to shoulder the burden on?
So I'm going to do an introduction. Michael, I would like you because you're the administrator of record for it, but the pulse of the teachers, I'm just darn glad they have one after the last 15 months, to be honest. We've tried to include them throughout for any teacher to voluntarily want to still work, to carry on the love of learning, to engage our students in socialization, and to assist in kind of remediating or enhancing the learning of our students is to be commended. I want just to reiterate, we're talking about 15 days, 3 hours a day, 45 hours between now and the end of summer school. A majority, as Tanya pointed out, is that in summer school, students are outside. And so it really will be inclement weather or class sizes that are, or more academic that are indoors. And so the ability to shuffle, depending on what you decide, I think a proposal of when students are outdoors, do they need to be masked, I think is something the board should seriously consider. I think for Michael, the question is, if it's completely at the discretion of a student, how hard is it for you to be shuffling students across different programs, either on a weekly or prospective way?
I believe Tammy Murphy is watching this. Tammy, please mute for the next 5 minutes because I'd like you to show up to work tomorrow.
Sorry, Tammy.
It would be extremely difficult, and this is part of the reason why. Let's say we're doing a math intervention group, right? And we have 20 students in that classroom, and 3 students say, we don't want to wear masks. We would then need to notify the other 17 families and say, because of these 3's choices, now you have to make a choice. Where they've already made a choice based on the fact that we had laid out they were going to wear masks. We made a choice. We feel comfortable with that. Our kids are coming to school. To now change that, I think would be, logistically, it'd be extremely difficult to do. It's sort of like squeezing a balloon.
Yeah. I guess maybe my question was misinterpreted. I just want to make sure it's clear. If we put it on the teacher of the classroom to say, I will not teach without my students masking up. Again, I'm asking questions here. I'm trying to get to to an answer. If there are, all right, let's go the other way. It could go either way. If a teacher says, I'm not teaching unless the students are all wearing masks, and there's students that have signed up for that class that said that parents are like, we don't want our kids to wear masks. The guidelines have changed from the CDC. I'd rather pull my kid out and do something else. Is it possible for them to have that option?
I would say if they're in an indoor classroom and they say, we've decided we don't want to do masks now, if there is room in an outdoor classroom, sure, we can make a change in
or
that
they
level.
Just can drop and get
again,
reimbursed.
it is optional. There's no charge for summer school.
I got a point, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So it is an option that they have, and they can choose the option of not attending summer school.
Can I just add, I would feel really uncomfortable putting that burden on a teacher's shoulders, because I can say I have felt that it's been extremely difficult for me as a board member once a month making that decision, not having kids in my classrooms the following year, having relationships that I'm going to have to sustain for years with families to make that decision. I would rather not take that off of their shoulders and not have teachers attacked for their beliefs in this or how they're feeling. So that's just where I'm at with
Completely
it.
understand. I guess my question was,
Yeah, but
what do you think the vibe is of the faculty?
Well, given that 50% of them said that if masks are not required, that they are not interested in teaching, I think that says it all.
That's not my question, though. My question is whether or not if we put the option on the teacher to say whether or not they would be willing to enforce masks in their classroom.
How comfortable would teachers be to make that decision, you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
To make the decision.
Oh, to make the decision? I don't think they'd be very comfortable with that. They want uniformity. They don't want, it's me in my personal, versus someone else's. So I think they'd ask administration, what are you going to, what are the mandates, kind of? To every classroom teacher to say, make up your own rules now around a safety protocol. I think teachers do not have an appetite for that after this year.
Okay.
Are we required, what's the
I
requirement?
appreciate the feedback. It does weigh into my thoughts here, so.
This just adds to that, sorry, Mike, if you had another question, but what's the quarantining guidelines right now going into summer school? Is it still
So
50?
If the staff or student, and Cassie, correct me if I'm wrong, if they are fully vaccinated, there is no quarantine.
Right.
But if they are not vaccinated, then it is anyone within 6 feet for a combined 15 minutes within 24 hours.
And if they don't have a mask, does that change at all, the distance or the time limit?
No.
Okay.
Remember, the purpose of the mask is to prevent the spread of the disease, not to prevent you having to quarantine.
Correct.
Let me follow up on that if I can quickly. How would we know who's vaccinated and who isn't?
We wouldn't.
So
what we would
But
know.
here's the reality of it.
We
when
would know staff.
Staff.
If they release that, they don't have to.
Well, point of clarification, remember, you will know that 100% of students below 12
Right.
have not.
That's what I mean.
Right?
Yep.
And so a majority of the population is elementary,
Yep.
and they won't be vaccinated.
And so they would be required to wear masks. There would be no question there because they're under the age of 12.
Right, and what we would do is we would, the staff would have to prove to the county that they have been vaccinated.
If they
Yep.
didn't wear masks.
Well, I was thinking students from a quarantine standpoint.
Yep, and
too,
students
because-
would be the same way. The county would have to go through and they would have to, the parents would have to provide proof to the county, not to us, because we don't do it. We assist the county in doing it. They would have to provide the proof to the county that the student
makes
is
sense.
fully vaccinated.
So it's really our secondary level who has less of a population, who's doing less of the they can socially distance a lot easier.
Correct.
That
When
would
we have a class size of 10 or 12 in chemistry and we have a 50 square foot room, everyone has their own lab station with a station bare in between.
Yeah.
So they can distance a lot more. Similar to when we have even elementary students that are struggling to keep their mask on or just need a mask break. We have space in the classroom where they go for those and they might stay there for 5-10 minutes with their masks off, drinking water and just taking a break from it. Or, as I do often, and Dr. Spuza sees me walk past his office, is there are times where we will take children outside and have them walk the track, go to the overhang area, just to get them outside to get their masks off as well if it's bothering them.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. And I'm just going to follow up here. I'm going to try to collect my thoughts here before I say this, but this does not impact, for me, the decision in the fall is we got to find a way to get open with little restrictions, if any, at all. And to me, summer school was kind of an opportunity to pilot that in some aspects. And I think I would like to see us make some compromises on the summer school requirements. I think the easy one for me is the outdoor mask. I think that one's an easy one to pick off. But that's just me. It sounds like we're not all in agreement on face coverings indoors and making that optional, even optional for the teachers to mandate. And I get that. I wanted to tease it out, like I said, because I think it's worth having the discussion. I can go either way on it. But again, the end game has to be come September. We need to be doing whatever we can to be back with little to no restrictions, especially if the guidelines from the state, the county, the CDC continue to go in the direction that they're going.
Agree. Mike, to add on to your outside, you know, I think the quarantine thing's still the same outside, so 6 feet we have in here. If they're within 6 feet, they'd wear a mask. But to me, I mean, we didn't put anything about 15 minutes in here or anything. I can't think of many activities that we're doing outside without a mask in a group, you know, closer to 6 feet for 15 minutes in with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a football huddle to me, because that's what, 30 seconds, you know, a minute. So to me, I think that's a compromise that follows the CDC guidelines, which is if you're next to each other for 15 minutes, even outside, then you wear a mask. I can't imagine how teachers can't make accommodations that doesn't happen though. So then that would be probably no masks outside, you know what I mean? And that would put some expectation on the teacher to make sure that happens. Like, don't let your kids be close together for more than 15 minutes without a mask. I mean, that's, I don't think, unreasonable to ask teachers to make sure that we're making lesson plans that have that in mind.
I do have a few other comments, but, go ahead.
Michael, that's what you had said, though, is that the teachers that do have the classrooms outside and will be outside doing activities are trying to organize so that they keep kids spaced apart as much as possible and don't come together into little groups, say with flag football or something, to where they are huddling. They're going to try and maintain that distance at all times.
Right, exactly. We would change our procedures and the way that we would do things to ensure that did not happen.
Okay.
Recess is a little bit different at elementary and intermediate right now. You know, recess is 30 minutes long. By the time they get out here, you got to line up and everything else. It's extremely difficult to have kids for 15 minutes. When classes are an hour long, potentially that could happen. But again, we would change our protocols. You know, I talked with Corey Morning, who was doing flag football, and he said he'd call plays on a whiteboard, so that way they don't have to huddle up. They learn their plays. He holds up number 5. They all know what number 5 is, and then they go and run the play. Yep. So we would definitely change our protocols. Similar to what Tanya was saying is, whenever we can get classrooms outside learning, then we get them outside learning, spread them out, take off the masks, and when there's independent work time and things like that, we're getting out as much as we can. Again, cooking, computers classes, piano, probably not, but ukulele and sing, why not? They should be outside. That is the expectation, is that if you can be outside, you're outside, and the masks are off.
And that's where teachers have some choice also for me, right? Like, hey, teachers, can you teach us outside? Can you make it work outside? Some of them can't because of whether there might be some cooking you could do outside, you know,
sure.
based on, but you know, then we just let families know there's a few classes where we can't do it.
So I have a few additional comments, but I just want to try and clarify what options we're kind of looking at, and if I'm wrong or there are other ones, let me know. So we could hold classes outside with no masks. We could make masks optional. We could mandate masks, or we could do masks indoors, none outdoors. Is there any other?
Some combination of that, yeah.
You know, okay. I just want to make sure there's not something out there that also makes sense. Yeah, this is a big quandary. I mean, you know, Kate Otto tonight mentioned constituency, and that's an important part of why we're up here, obviously. When we have constituents reach out to us with opinions, you know, we have to take that into consideration. I am on record as being supportive of our teachers and staff. Every meeting that I've sat in, except for one, following a failed referendum. And I had my reasons for having the opinions I shared that night. I'll continue to support our staff, you know, but I question some of the data here. If I'm reading the family surveys, it tells me the majority of people will come to summer school without a mask mandate. I mean, that's what this says. It goes from 70% no required face coverings to 89% with required face coverings. 70% of parents or families who were surveyed said they would come regardless. And I think that's important data to not forget. And I certainly understand the teachers' sentiments. I also have a belief in our teaching staff that the majority of them are going to show up for the kids anyway. And I could be totally wrong about that. I haven't asked one teacher that question, but that's a belief I have, because a lot of our teachers are here for the kids, and that's really what they do. I could not be a teacher, because I could not spend my day with a classroom full of kids. I don't have that personality or mentality, but most of these people do, so I think we have to consider that as well. Time in the classroom is another thing. You're right, 3 hours a day. It's not a full school day that we're talking about being in these buildings. It's not 7 or 8 hours, it's 3 for 3 weeks. The number 71, 72 school districts have changed that for their summer school or for fall next year. When I saw the data yesterday, it was 60 plus schools, but there were several meetings held last night, so I'm sure that number has gone up. So some people say, hey, don't worry about what other districts are doing, do what Prescott wants to do, okay? Some people are on the other side, we need to look at other districts. Well, I think we're looking at both. We're looking at the community, we're looking at the teachers, and we're looking at what else is going on within the state of Wisconsin and other districts. Somebody mentioned change. All we do is change. Every month we're making changes. We have motions on our agenda that talk about changing policies, changing positions, you name it, right? Teachers and staff and administrators in this district have done nothing but change this year and pivot and adjust. This may just be another time where we need to make some adjustments. I understand why the teachers were told and the families were told that we would have masks in summer school. I understand the circumstances at that time, but this may be another time where we need to pivot and make a change because other things have changed. We don't have a mandate from the county, we have recommendations. The CDC in the state of Wisconsin have somewhat vague recommendations, in my opinion, regarding what they expect. And some part of that is so that they don't have to take the responsibility. I have some belief in that as well. But I also think they have the public's best interest in mind. This is not an easy decision by any means. So I'll stop there. I don't know how you want to handle what the motion would look like when we get to that
I'm
either.
trying to frame this up. So,
Hey, Mike, I got another question here, though.
okay.
And I don't know if this is Michael's or Dr. Spacuzza's, but in summer school, the assumption is, right, when we do have indoor classes, we have more space available that would typically be available during the school day. Are there any circumstances that you can think of off the top of your head, I hope this is fair, in which we would ever have students closer than 6 feet with each other for a period of longer than 15 minutes?
Indoors or outdoors?
What's that?
Indoor or
Indoors.
outdoors?
Indoors.
Definitely indoors.
Okay.
Our classrooms aren't getting any bigger. And we do have some classes, especially some of our remediation classes at the elementary level, where we do have 20 students, which is sort of our average class size that will be in a classroom.
Okay.
There are many classes, though, where the class size is around 10. Yep, so majority of classes, there is going to be much more room than what we see. The pod, instead of being a pod of 5 or 4 that we have in class right now, might be a pod of 2 or 3. So that would limit that exposure. But there will be some classes that are relatively full.
Have we, the classes that are full, that are 20 students or plus, is it safe to say that we've explored all options to find larger spaces for them?
Yeah, the room selections that we've made are based on that. Yep, so example, we have a middle school class that's bigger. Also the programming that they're doing, they're going to be using what used to be Mandy Bernick's room, which now is the senior gathering space, which is really like a classroom and a quarter. So they get the bigger space due to that. Yeah, so we definitely have looked at what are our bigger classrooms and then putting those fuller classes, like STEM is a very popular class. That's going to be in the STEM room. The STEM room is the biggest room on the upstairs. We also have computers classes. We could have put that into our computer lab. However, due to space and due to cohorting and those things, we're putting it in the library. And the library is approximately 4 times bigger than our computer lab, so we'll be able to get our kids spread out as well. So yes, all of that was considered when we selected what classes went where.
Thank you.
So I have a question. So at this point, as far as like the school and us, the district, assuming the risk, the biggest hurdle for indoors is still maintaining 6 feet for kids that are over elementary school age, and then for the elementary age kids, that's 3 feet as long as they're masked, correct? No?
Always 6.
No, contact tracing is still 6 feet.
Still is a 6 feet.
6
okay.
feet. The 3-foot recommendation that came out a while ago, that was to get some of the bigger suburban districts open that hadn't been open because they could not even get the 6 feet in between their pods.
Okay.
But the contact tracing still goes out to 6 feet no matter how close the students are.
So is one of the, Pat, I just want to ask more about your line of questions there, which is it something that we can consider that if kids can be socially distanced 6 feet or further away, we could go without masks in those spaces? Is that something that you were asking about? Or just
yeah,
in general?
It was. I mean that would weigh into my decision,
Okay.
right? If we were able to, guarantee that,
Right.
that would affect my decision, potentially.
Yeah, I'd say there are very, very few classes that are indoor classes where we could guarantee that. I think off the top of my head, again, maybe some of the high school classes, the geometry, or maybe the chemistry, but really the K-8 program would not allow for that.
So there's two things here that I think we should consider making motions on. One for outdoor activities, and that includes any summer school courses that can be held outdoors too. I think that should be factored in as well. Just no masks. That would be one. And then the second one is for indoors, whether or not we want to adhere with the recommendation of masks or making masks optional.
Or the fully vaccinated version?
I don't know if we can do that.
We can at the secondary.
Now you're asking people to give us their...
We're not. I mean, we're also trusting people, right? What are we going to do in fall?
Though, doesn't it?
I would break them into steps, and I think it would be good for you to start with outdoors.
Yep.
And any class outdoors. And
Let's get that one on the table here. Does anybody want to frame that up? I got an idea. I'm just kind of looking at this one here.
I want to say one thing though. Mike, I agree with one thing you said. Well, maybe more than that, but one
Really?
specific thing. When fall comes, we have to look at that again, right? And again, we have constant change and whatnot. So what we're talking about here is summer school.
This is summer school.
And we'll have to come back and have a conversation about fall at an appropriate time. So.
Yep. So I would look at a motion to discontinue with masks outdoors during the June summer session. And that would be how I would word it. If somebody wants to make that motion, I will make it if you want me to.
Hang on a second.
Can we talk about what's your concern with adding the CDC guidelines of the 15 minutes in there?
In the motion?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just getting rid of it. The CDC guideline says you don't have to wear a mask outside if you're not next to each other for 15 minutes.
What if the CDC comes out tomorrow and changes it?
Well, we keep pivoting it, which is what we do. And that's just what I'm asking.
Then we'll have to come back and make another motion. So, I mean, we could factor in or go with whatever the CDC guidelines maybe. All right,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking, or is it like it's an expectation for teachers that I don't want kids together for 15 minutes together, so we could just put that out there as a teacher expectation, like that can't happen, or we can roll it into the motion.
Okay.
That,
How would you like us to handle that? Is that something that we can have you guys manage? Or does that get a little bit...
I don't see why we couldn't manage that.
Right, we can make it an expectation. The other part I wanted to clarify is that summer school is not just June. We do have July programming, we do have August programming. Speed and strength goes all the way until school starts.
Right.
So to me, when you say summer school, you mean June K-8, or are you talking all of summer school? And the other part, as you guys debate this, is indoors. Also think about the bus. Are you guys considering the bus as an indoor area as well?
Yeah.
Also, in camps, anything that's going on in the school.
Sure. Yep. So, and this is another one I know. Thanks for bringing that. Nick Johnson asked about like indoor basketball camps. They're indoors. during the summer. Does that also follow what you guys are going to decide here?
And is that still being held in August or late July?
Yes, the indoor camps are held throughout. Yep,
August.
volleyball, basketball, yep. So those will be trickling into August as well.
I mean, personally, I would start with outdoors. I think some of the August things, we know that things keep changing and more information's coming. And we have a board meeting every month.
Okay.
So if you want to go the whole,
Well, if we spend an hour and a half on it again, no, I think this is all great conversation. This is what we're supposed to do. So let's stick with the first motion being just outdoor activities, outdoor summer school activities for, we're recommending June.
well, I think
No, all of
outdoors,
summer
you
June,
can
July,
do the
June,
whole
July,
year.
okay, June, July, August.
Yeah.
That does not include camps or anything like that though, because I have another opinion on that, but
Well, is camp considered summer school?
no.
It's not, we don't
But
get
they're
funding, okay.
paying, I think that's, yeah, that's
Okay.
outside, right? All right. I'll make a motion to discontinue with masks outdoors during the June, July, and August summer session.
I'll second it.
Okay, that's a motion and a second. Is there any other amendments or dialogue before we go around here? Do roll call. Tanya?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Wow. Okay. So that's outdoors. Now let's move to indoors for the, well, it'll be for the June. Right? Is there any indoor classes in July or August? There is.
Awesome.
Okay. So this is all of them then. If we want to make it for all of them, we could.
Well, hey, Mike, question.
Yeah.
So if we have a motion today that covers summer school, right, that'll go through August, we still have the ability to modify that next board meeting, right?
Yep.
So we could just do it for summer school and then change it if needed.
Okay.
Per parliamentary procedure, we do have the ability and the right, and by state statute, to come back and reconsider a previously passed motion.
Yes.
So absolutely, we can do that.
Okay. All right, so there is, the way it should be worded is to, the way it's worded here, if you guys want to read it, take a look at it and decide whether or not you want to make it required or optional. I'll be honest, I'm for optional at this point. With that said, I understand the desire to continue face coverings at a district level. I'm trying to separate out summer school from the fall. But I guess that's where I land right now. And I might be in the outlier, but. So if somebody wants to provide a motion here, we can do the same thing.
Do we need to have more discussion, or is that, I mean?
No, we can continue to discuss. If there's anything else you want to suggest.
Because now
or-
we're just talking indoors.
Just indoors.
Yeah.
And we can discuss after a motion and a second as well.
Yep. If there's a motion that you'd like to make and we can somehow sift through it, then.
I'm sorry, I'm just playing pseudo parliamentary in here.
Yeah, no, you're right. So does anybody want to make a motion here?
I move to continue with masks indoors during the June summer session as required for staff and students.
I would ask for a friendly amendment based on the fact that we just discussed June, July, and August.
Let's add June, July, and August to the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. This is for, just to clarify again, it's for indoor masks for June, July, and August. as required for staff and students. And indoor also would include bus. I think we should clarify that too, right?
Yes, go ahead and add the bus to the indoors.
All right, there's a motion, a second. Any dialogue at all? Should we?
Can I add, I'm still on like just following the guidelines, which says that if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to. And I understand that doesn't impact our elementary, but it does impact our secondary, where we can do more social distancing and have bigger spaces. So what would it look like, and this is me just being completely naive because I've never had this experience before, but what would it look like at the high school level if a student walked in without a mask? And do we assume, okay, he must be vaccinated, or she, because he's not wearing or she's not wearing a mask? Or what does that look like? I mean, I know when I went to Crumble Cookie the other day, I didn't wear a mask because I wasn't vaccinated, but my daughter did because she was. You know what I mean? So, and nobody asked. So I'm just asking, what's our role in that? Or I just don't know.
Let me, I'm glad you asked that question, because I see part of our audience sitting in here, in this building where we require masks, not wearing masks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I don't know the answer to the question, but I think it's a good question.
Thanks. I mean, because that matters to me, honestly. I feel like as the CDC opens things up and the science agencies, we should work on opening things up, especially if that's our goal in fall. So that matters to me. But if it's, we can't we just can't manage it, then that's a whole nother story. We can't manage it, and that's that.
You're asking for either the honor system or some other form.
I'm just asking, what would it look like?
I think, well, right now it's you're wearing a mask or you shouldn't be in the building.
And I guess unfortunately, if we, yeah, I don't know. That changes my opinion I don't know.
So that's.
I know we've never been here before, and that's my question, I guess.
All right, well, there's a motion and a second on the table, so let's just roll call. Tanya?
Considering we don't have a way of managing that yet, I will say aye.
Steve?
Nay.
Pat?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
I vote nay as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so we covered indoors, outdoors. I think, is there anything we're missing before we move on?
Well, were buses included? I guess I'm not clear.
Yes, we talked about buses being included as indoors.
Okay.
You guys brought up a concern about camps, like basketball and stuff. Is that?
Camps. Can we tackle that at a different date, or do you want us to have something in place now?
I guess I would ask, is Matt still here? Do you want to come up just on registration? Personally, I would say I would wait because it's August, but I don't know what the timeline is of having registration and things like that.
I guess I would add in, just for my clarification too, if we have groups that rent out the pack all summer long, or different rooms, gym rooms, and community groups that use it, community ed use it. So clarification for me and how I'm managing that would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll have some camps and whatnot, or training sessions in the gym here indoors when we hit June. So it could even be a thing with, say, a rain practice in our continuing spring sports into June, could practice inside. So yeah, there'll be some questions that come up possibly about that.
And that is basketball and baseball?
There could be basketball, like some training sessions with our high school players in here. Speed and Strength utilizes the gym once in a while for their sessions also. It could be a volleyball open gym scheduled on a June Wednesday night or whatnot also.
Okay.
I would say, for the time being, along with the indoor mask, needs that we're doing for summer school, I would say we stay with that throughout June. If we want to revisit it at the June school board meeting to look more into it, that'd be a recommendation that I would follow and make sure that our coaches and all participants also follow.
All right, so I want to understand the camp Our board meeting is the third Wednesday of June. I don't know exactly the date. Does the camp start, or it starts before that date?
There'll be stuff going on in the gym before that, yes.
All right. Then if we don't do something tonight, what will happen is basically what's currently going on, we'll have to apply for camps as well, or at least the camp in June.
And camps could be open gyms. I would just say activities within the gym. Yeah.
Sounds like it's really indoor facilities, period. I mean, if we're gonna lump everything into it.
Yeah, because Mr. Figgy brought it up too with PAC, and there's stuff going on in June there as well.
I mean, we could just think of it that way versus athletics versus rentals, whatever.
Do we, since we already made a motion that was specific to summer school, do we need to change or do another motion?
Do another motion.
Yeah.
So this would be for, how would we frame that up? Camps, and is it extracurricular activities held on school property?
Just say indoor building use.
Indoor.
Indoor event building use, something along those lines. I mean, then you have a directive. You have a baseball camp outside, you don't wear masks, based on what we know now. But maybe we need to identify that too.
Yeah, I mean, for sports, and I mean, you're talking indoor sports or indoors, but for outdoor sports, you're only talking days during inclement weather that you'd be indoors. The camps only go for 3 days, don't they?
Most of them, yes. Some for 5, depending on the camps.
Okay.
But we will have, yes, in June, basketball players coming in to do workouts in the gym and whatnot, and masks are totally acceptable for that.
Okay.
They understand that they did it in the winter.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Well, let's keep going here. Does anybody have any dialogue on this one? Any opinions? Does anybody's opinion change when we talk about athletics or activities that require physical exertion?
I guess I would just put something, the same way we just did the last two motions. Make it for indoor and outdoor school district property activities or something along those lines. Because we've got the baseball field to consider. That's still owned by the school district.
Yeah. So you're talking about a separate motion for outdoor activities?
Well, to remain consistent with what we just did as a board, I think that makes sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, we can try to tackle it in a month from now too, and roll with what we have. And the other thing we have to remember is there are guidelines that are through June 3rd from the county. And, right?
No, it's been rescinded, so it's now at the board level.
It is,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. So it is at the board level. So we're not expecting anything else from, right now the county's basically saying it's at the board level then?
Correct.
Okay. Well. All right, I think we know where we stand here. I think we should just rip the Band-Aid off, especially for anything that requires, I guess, physical activity. And that includes basketball, indoors, volleyball. I think we should try to move away from it and just do the best we can to manage it. The coaches that coach different. I don't want to put. I don't want to posture or assume. I don't want to put my thoughts into other people. I don't want to assume what other people are thinking. But I think if we're going to do it, that would be my preference. And I know I'm being the one that's talking a lot here. So if you guys jump in if you want to frame it up differently. But for indoor activity with any physical activity, I think should be no masks.
But how do you define that and limit that? Like, does that
Okay.
mean the summer school classes that are taking gym inside? I mean, how is that different, I guess?
I'll say my, here's what I was trying to word. For the summer school classes, there's a pretty strong consensus among the teachers that are teaching summer school that want to continue with the masks, and so I get that. Plus, it's also tied to revenue.
Just to clarify, based on their data, there's not a consensus.
Well, it's 50-50.
It's 50-50.
Evenly
You're right.
split.
Good
Yeah.
point, Steve. But there's enough of a, it's an even split. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that. So I understand that and I respect that. With sports, I'll just use sports. We don't have data on that, but my guess, my hunch would be that coaches would do either or. They would be fine being optional versus requiring it. And if we want to make it optional, I have a tough time believing that there's a coach that would not want to coach.
You got to be careful too, because we're also talking about decisions we made for spring that would include spring sports that.
We've already made those resolutions though, and those go till June 3rd.
Well, but some sports may go past June 3rd, is what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
Mike. So,
Yeah, I know softball will.
You're right.
Mike, I got a question here. So,
Sorry,
because I think sports is different, and it's because the teacher issue and the finances are not involved. So for me, there is a difference there. And again, I keep asking if this is a fair question, but I'm going to go back to is if we say for sports or camps or use of the PAC, is that reasonable to ask the people managing our facilities, right, to manage that? Is that a reasonable ask, right? The difference between summer school, summer session, and sports or camps. And if it can be managed, then I would probably be able to support that. If it can't be, then I got a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same question with being in the building. Like, I think as soon as we get, we're going to have to, for next year, have some kind of process in place that we work on in the summer, no matter what, just in case, so we're ready to go. And I think that changes my thoughts on a lot of this stuff. If I would have voted the other way if we were able to say, yeah, we can come up with a process.
Me too. But
So the same thing goes with this situation with sports and stuff. Is it manageable? Is it manageable for staff? Is it manageable for the families to know the difference? All of that.
When you say manageable, are you? What is that?
So if we got
example.
summer session going on and we got an elementary school full of kids taking math and art and whatever, and then there's a basketball camp with kids in the gym, okay, and they're under two separate rules, and I don't know if that condition will ever exist, but that's what I want to make sure can either be managed or it can't, and if that can't be separated and managed, then I think it puts our teachers and facility directors in not a very good situation.
Matt, do we overlap or do they tend to be in the afternoon?
It depends. It varies.
Okay.
It'll be all over the board.
And bringing it back to safety too, right? Like.
And I also got a question too. Have we sent out any registration stuff for camps? Again, not summer session, but sports camps.
There's been some that have gone out.
Okay.
Well, there's been some handouts going out.
Yep.
Links. Full transparency, I don't think there's anything saying you're going to have to wear masks or not be wearing masks. It's just kind of
It leaves it.
information for dates and times.
Okay.
Skill sets that can be worked.
Okay.
When is the basketball camp? Sorry, you guys said this, I bet.
It's up in the air.
Okay.
A lot of coaches are still looking at dates with the spring sports going longer. It has that wave effect of pushing things around.
And again, I'd also say that if we make a motion on and get anything passed today, we can still revisit it next month with any new information that we have.
Correct.
Well, I'm wondering, do we need to make a decision today? Is there a camp that's happening within the next month? Which one?
The Monday after school gets out, our facilities are being used. And we do have afternoon classes both at the high
That are like through community of ed or something, or you're talking about summer school?
I'm talking summer school.
Oh, yeah. Which I think we already agreed on. I was asking more about like the camps with sports. How soon into the summer do we need to make a decision right away? Can we look more at things like management, process, coaches' opinion? I mean,
They'll be open gyms or skill sessions in the gym starting right away.
Okay.
The gym's gonna be quoted the first week of June, when school's out. After that,
it's
June,
right away.
week of June 12th, whatever that week is, 14th, there'll be people in the gym.
So Matt, smaller groups, the teen camp stuff that we get big numbers of kids, likely won't happen until after our next June board meeting.
Likely would be July, after spring seasons wrap up.
Yep.
The larger team settings. That being said, there will still be groups in the gym.
Sure.
We can space and do things to keep everyone safe. But yes, odds are large group settings, 20, 30, 40, 50 after spring seasons wrap up in June.
So what we're looking at right now, though, is we do not have an indoor policy regarding masks starting on June 4th. In general, I know we have summer school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm working out in the gym or the weight room, or if I'm sitting in here watching a production of whatever, it's not covered.
Yeah, because the resolution we put was to June 3rd,
Yeah.
to the end of the school year.
So my opinion is we need to make a decision tonight.
I agree, Steve. And it's hard for me to, I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my head a little bit around the different, like having 3 different, one's for community of ed or just like indoor spaces, one's for summer school, one's for sports. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
I'm not sure why this group of 5 people sitting up here would vary from what they just voted on in summer school.
right?
There may be a reason for it. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't see it. It's
Why
the
we
same
would vary?
space, and
Why we would vary from what we just voted on?
yeah.
Because I don't have teacher input. We don't have our teachers required to coach sessions in the gym with basketball, and they don't have a financial impact on the district. Those are my reasons. But I think three logical reasons of why they're different scenarios for me.
Okay.
And I'm still with that fully vaccinated. I mean, that's where it would change for me. If we could come up with a process that opens it up and we say, hey, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to, I think we're gonna need to come up with something eventually, I believe. I don't know, I hope not for fall, but I think it's worth that we start looking into. So that's where I would maybe vote a little different, I guess, but.
Good.
Well, and my reason for the summer school mask wearing and not mask wearing is when the decisions were made, when the information was sent out, parents and teachers all were under an understanding, and at the time, that's the understanding we were under. So I'm looking at the consistency and maintaining the consistency, because summer school starts so quickly after school is finished. So it's that continuing with how it's been, and there isn't this all of a sudden a change for teachers and kids when that was the assumption and that was part of their understanding with signing up and doing this. So that's why I'm looking at maintaining it, because yeah, everything is changing on a daily basis. More people get vaccinated, more information comes out, and hopefully by midsummer, this looks a lot better. But I just think for consistency, that's why I'm where I'm at with summer school and the decisions that I made for that.
Yeah, by making that statement, I wasn't trying to back up into the decisions that have just been made. I was just trying to understand why facility use would be any different than summer school use. So that's all I was trying to get in.
All right, well, we need a motion or we move on and we leave it.
I'm gonna make a motion. I will move to no longer mask during outdoor activities during June, July, and August, outside of summer school activities, and beyond spring sports.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a beyond spring sports meaning that we,
Meaning spring sports would maintain the spring protocols that we have put in place already, would be the intent of the motion. So if baseball goes till June 8th, baseball maintains what we set in place for spring.
You could basically say with the exception of spring sports, because they
Sure.
fall under the other guidelines.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would accept that friendly amendment.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to say with the exception of spring sports.
so we have a motion, a second. Is there anybody have any questions on it at all? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries.
And please, just whoever's typing, we did make that June, July, and August, just for clarity. Thank you.
Okay.
For whoever's typing. I'm sorry.
Anybody getting
Yeah,
tired?
we're both doing
Do we
it.
wanna
Yep,
move on?
thanks.
Or is there anything else?
We want to talk
Well,
about
we have to
indoor?
talk about
Indoors?
inside spaces.
So I want to, yeah. There's like 5 motions I want to make. They're all different, and it does add a lot of inconsistency. I do admit that, but with sports indoors, I would like to see us pull that out and remove the mask requirement for the reasons that we kind of talked about just now.
So you're thinking separate from general facility use for other activities?
Hey, I'd be fine opening up for everything, honestly, at this point, but I'm trying to find a compromise.
No, I understand. But I think, Mr. Figge's point, we do need to clarify because,
Yeah.
if we've got receptions or awards, there's just a ton of things that happen in
Yeah.
this building that we don't think about that don't relate to sports
You're right.
and don't relate to the classroom. These meetings being one.
So then I would go with no masks for indoor facility use outside of, with the exception of the summer school that we already voted on.
And other board members have already expressed some opinions as far as why that would be different from summer school, so that's helpful, at least in
Yep.
my brain.
Do you have anything to add, Pat or Vicky? Is that?
I don't.
Let's get this over then. Do you want to make a motion here, Pat, or do you want?
I think you should.
All right.
I think you should make it. You kind of had it.
All right. I'll make a motion to no
Before-
longer require masks.
Before you do that, if I can interrupt.
Yes, sir.
Do we want to use language as far as optional?
Yes. Well, we haven't been, but
Well, I'm just, this question before you,
yeah, I would say optional is the right phrase, but we've already made about 10 motions that don't use that word, unfortunately.
well,
And
But we
so
can-
outside entities, this is like people renting out our spaces, outside of school district sponsored type events. And so they could choose to use a different facility if they didn't align with whatever we come up with tonight, right? I mean, essentially, this isn't, besides with the exception of maybe the state, just would be the one kind of group, I guess, that needs this facility, but, okay,
I just don't, I don't know that outside entities is accurate. I mean,
sure.
Just
Community of ed.
what the difficulty is, if you have crossover, simplicity is usually easier to manage, especially when you're dealing with kids.
Yeah.
You go to a typical high school or middle school kid, if they're trying to figure out, okay, I'm coming to summer school right now, so I have to have it I'm in the hall, versus now I'm going to basketball camp, so I can take it. I mean,
No.
that's gonna be a very, very difficult mindset for kids to wrap their heads around, let alone for adult staff members and other people who are going to use it.
I agree.
And then for the people who are trying to just manage that and say, okay, is this a student right now, or is this somebody who's not? I have to assume that you make the student wear a mask if it's not a student right now, or it was 10 minutes past the class, now, I mean, that's gonna be the reality
Right.
multiplied by a few few hundred daily.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, I just want to get some clarity on that.
Yeah, right now, we've made motions to have masks indoors at summer school. That's it. Everything else has been approved as masks are no longer, they're optional for outdoors for summer school and optional for non-summer school activities outdoors. So everything outdoors is optional at this point. So that's pretty consistent.
Yeah. It's
And-
the indoor thing that'll be.
Right, and so indoors, we're saying masks at summer school. And now we're trying to put something together for indoors for non-summer school activities. So, I know it's maybe I think it's not as confusing as other people, but to me it seems pretty straightforward. The only thing that we have masks for right now is summer school activities, summer school classes. Everything else would be optional if we were to go that route. So I'm going to throw it out here. You guys vote the way you think your vote your way, and then if it does not pass, we can come back and have a different motion. So I'm going to make a motion to no longer require masks for any indoor use outside of summer school use activities. I was kind of following you along here, Rick. I'm sorry. So I'll start that over. I'll make a motion to no longer require masks for any indoor use of non-summer school activities
June, July, and August.
through June, July, and August. So I know this is another one that's difficult. I want you guys to know this is difficult for us too. This has been a tremendously difficult year for us as well. And this is where the discussion should be. It's definitely not easy. All right?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Does the motion make sense? Number one. Like, does it logistically, is it understandable, right? If we have a motion and a second, is there any further dialogue?
Well, you've got June. We are still, with our resolution last month,
June 3rd.
we're through June 3rd.
Yeah, so let's say starting June 4th.
So you need to start after.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Does that qualify as a motion and a second still then? It's pretty understandable.
I'm agreeable.
Clear as mud. All right.
You know what, Mike? Hey, Mike, I don't want to keep prolonging this, right? I mean, holy balls, we're going to be here forever. But
we are going to be here forever.
I'd kick myself if I didn't bring this up. For me, I do think that there's a difference between facilities and then the gym and the weight room areas. For me, there's a difference there, and I would kick myself if I didn't bring that up right now, and we pass this.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second.
I'm just bringing that up for.
So can I clarify? Are you looking at, because the way I would interpret this is that you're saying any indoor use of facilities would not require, obviously outside of summer school. Are you saying that you would like
You want to make
only,
an amendment to it, Pat?
I'm bringing it up for discussion.
Well, what's your amendment then? Let's get it out there. 'Cause
Indoor facilities excluding gymnasiums and weight room.
well,
You mean
Mike's was,
only, you're kind of, that's the opposite. Or you want to change the motion to
PSD
be
will no longer
masks
require
required?
masks during indoor use of facilities with the exception of gymnasium and weight room.
Okay, I missed the first part. I
Outside
cut
of
you off.
summer
Can you
school.
can just repeat the whole thing again? Sorry.
Prescott School District will no longer require masks during indoor use of facilities with the exception of in gymnasiums or the weight room outside of summer school beginning June 4th and including July and August.
Pat, I think
You're going the opposite way there.
Yeah.
Well, fix it then. You guys know what I'm trying to get at.
You're saying no longer.
I'm trying to read it. Rick's typing. Somebody help me
PSD will
out.
require masks for indoor use, this is not a motion. PSD will require masks for indoor use with the exception.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Thank you.
so is that what you, so you do want, if they're using a classroom or something, you want masks on, but if they're in the gym or weight room, masks off?
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
There you go. That you kind of. All right, I get what you're saying.
Wrestling room, that also.
Add the wrestling room. And again, I hope that that's a little bit of compromise with how the buildings are managed versus the strenuous activity balance thing. So that's my angle.
Let's finish this and then we'll restate it.
Yeah, in the interest of consistency and the direction this went, I will rescind my second, however. No offense intended.
You rescind your
My second. So you will need another
Okay.
second.
Thank you.
Weight room.
So we'll need a new motion then?
Well, you've got a new motion, so,
So
yes.
you need a new second.
You may want to reread the motion.
Yeah, we're gonna have to reread this.
Yep.
He's doing the best he can.
Let's see, so what I have so far, correct me if I'm wrong, we have PSD will require masks during indoor use of facilities with the exception of the gym, wrestling room, and weight room, beginning June 4th and including July and August. Is that the intent?
That is my intent.
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion. I move that Prescott School District will require masks during indoor use facilities with the exception of the gyms, wrestling rooms, and weight rooms areas beginning June 4th and including July and August.
Can I ask a question about that motion? So are you including coaches and students in there? Because I'm hearing it's about exertion and, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And coaches, that looks different, much like a teacher. So are you including everybody in those spaces or just kids that are participating in that activity?
I wasn't differentiating.
Okay.
If you were in the spaces,
Okay.
this is how I intended the motion.
Okay.
That's how I'd interpret it as well. All right, I'll second it. So we're at a motion and a second. Any further questions? Poor Maddie sitting down there.
No wonder she's not
She
coming
won't
back.
come back in June.
It's so cold in here, freezing.
All right, let's go roll call again. Tanya?
Aye.
Steve?
Nay.
Pat?
Aye.
Vicky? I didn't hear you, Vicky. Are you still awake?
She's thinking
Nay.
I vote aye. So that motion carries. Okay, that covers everything that, holy cripes, we want to cover tonight. So we're gonna move on. And we'll try to rip through this as efficiently as we can here. So next one is consider middle school overnight.
Well, come on down. It is it is my oversight I apologize, I should have known to put you guys sooner. But I just wanted some people to be able to, we saved the best for last.
Sorry.
So thank you for your
Yeah.
attention.
I really appreciate that.
This is an exciting opportunity for our kids. I'm really happy for what you put together. Let me just get your slides up here because you spent some time. And why don't you introduce both of you,
My
your
name
names?
is Brianna Heffler, and I'm the band director down at Prescott Middle School.
My name is Diana Lee. I'm the choir director at Prescott Middle School.
Hopefully this will be an easier decision for you guys. We would really like to, this is now the second time I've come to the board asking to go on this trip, but inconsistency with our meeting tonight, COVID has just kind of put a screeching halt to these plans. Beyond the Notes Music Festival is a non-competitive music festival hosted down at the Kalahari Resort in the Wisconsin Dells. For those of you who don't know the Kalahari Resort, it's an indoor water park, convention center, giraffes, elephants, aardvarks, whatever have you. We would be going down there with our students for band and choir when they are in 8th grade, and they'd be performing their musical selections for a panel of judges, and then we would get the opportunity to get critiqued and work with these clinicians. It's a really great opportunity for kids because they get to do what they love, and they're not in a competitive nature. So it's really focused on building teamwork, community, and just showing everybody else in the state what we're working on and doing here. If you go to the next slide, that'd be great. The mission of Beyond the Notes is, we believe musicians, young musicians need opportunities to develop success in 3 areas: skill, knowledge, and affect, which is social emotional. This festival, there's bands, choirs, and orchestras that come from Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, and it gives our kids a really good opportunity to see what kids their age are doing in other school districts as well. It does offer a lot of academic priority standards that we would be focusing on through performance, literacy, and music response. And then we did outline our itinerary for you. I believe you guys had access to these slides. So our itinerary would be, we would leave school on Wednesday, get down to the Kalahari where we would be staying. The students would be using the indoor water park for a period of time. And then there would also be educational hours and activities looped into these 3 days as well. We'd be returning to school around 3 p.m. on Friday evening, so the students would be back, I believe that's the same day as high school graduation. Does anybody have any questions about the itinerary?
No, my daughter was supposed to do this last year. We're super bummed out. It sounds like a great opportunity. Her
That
little
makes 2 of us.
sister, we hope, gets to do it someday. No, I mean, to be honest, I think it's pretty awesome. I think it's really great to get kids into their elements and doing things that they like and taking risks and having fun. And I like that it's not this year, it's next year when hopefully we're back to feeling really normal. So I think it's a great program.
Very diligent in chaperones with water park expectations for students. We do ask students and parents to sign a contract just outlining behavior expectations during the school year, as well as just reminding kids that we are representing Prescott School District while we're down there. So it is another good opportunity just for life lessons for our students as well.
Yeah, again, our apologies for making you wait through all this. This was a slam dunk. We would have done this first and gotten you out of here. So, anybody have any questions or comments before we make a motion?
Can't think of anything to ask. Everything's there, and great program. I would agree.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And thank you both for what you do.
Thank you.
Middle school band and choir.
You had me at middle school.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of interesting sounds fill our days. So.
So we're moving to approve the overnight stay for the Beyond the Notes Festival.
Yes, for them to move forward.
Yep.
I move to approve the middle school overnight Beyond the Notes Festival for May 2022.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Item J is consider health partner something.
Yes, so.
Health partner dental.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you
a good
both.
night.
All right, so we, every year, we get updates from SF Insurance, who is our broker. Health Partners runs a 12-month analysis on the amount of money that they've collected versus the amount of money that they have spent. And we are looking at an increase of 4.5% on our health care. We did have a cap of 9%, so this is a 50% cut from what we could have incurred. Remember that we pay 87.5% of our licensed staff health insurance. Dental is going to stay flat, and it had a decrease the previous year, and all short-term, long-term disabilities will remain at the current rates. This rate of 4.5% is somewhat contingent on, we are in the last year of a third-year contract, and Health Partners is offering to us to extend for 2 additional years with caps. And our Sean Fitzgerald, our insurance broker, is highly recommending that we have good support from our staff with regards to accessibility and the programs through Health Partners, and having a cap during these unstable times, he would highly recommend. So we're asking, basically you're accepting the 4.5% increase, but also agreeing to 2 additional years with fixed caps of 9% max.
Vicki, any questions?
No.
Pat?
And that's 9% above the increase of 4.5.
That's
today.
correct.
Okay, thanks.
Steve?
No questions.
Tanya?
No questions.
Manny, any questions on this? I just keep, yeah. All right, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to accept the 4.5% increase with the additional 2-year agreement with Health Partners as our healthcare provider.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. K is consider First National Bank River Falls.
So earlier tonight in consent agenda, you identified the First National Bank of River Falls continues to be your primary bank for all fiduciary accounts. We were approached by Jim Johnson, who had asked on a similar program that they did with River Falls, is to create a Cardinal Pride debit card. And so they would like to provide to customers of First National Bank, that anybody that has their account, a Cardinal Pride debit card, they would work with us to use our logo and branding. So we get to pick the color of red and whether or not we want the flying P or the Cardinal, or maybe even have 2 options. This is a non-exclusive agreement, so they are our primary bank. They are offering that they would donate back to the school district for every individual member that goes with that debit card, that they would contribute $20 to our Fund 21 Sunshine Fund. So this would go into gifts that then would help us cover kind of staff recognitions and acknowledgments, as we usually attempt to do, and the board does that on a regular basis. I did reach out to BMO Harris and Wisconsin and Credit Union, inform them. Wisconsin is unable to do it based on just of how their credit card or debit cards are set up. And BMO Harris does not at this time believe that she has the ability to do it, and it's a little bit more corporate, but she will get back to us if she can. And First National Bank had no concern if other banks were included.
Great. It's pretty straightforward. Would anybody have any questions or comments on this one?
Just answered my question.
I appreciate that you reached out, yeah. And you know, we're a small community, reached out to other banks, give them the same right. I think that's awesome.
I'll move to allow First National Bank River Falls to work with Prescott School District Administration to identify an appropriate logo to show Cardinal Pride debit card.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. L, consider additional contribution to Fund 46.
So as you know, part of our strategic direction, we've been creating or funding a Fund 46. It is a trust fund. It can't be open till August 2022. At the beginning of the year, we had allocated $25,000 to be going into that fund. At this time, as we come to year end, it appears that we are running slightly under budget, and we would like permission as we work with Baird, closing our year end, if we have additional dollars, that we would make an additional contribution to that. I wasn't sure if you wanted to put a limit on it at this time, or basically it would be essential for us to do it and get it into the account, and the timing, obviously, it has to be done no later than June 30th.
Steve, any questions?
I don't really have any questions. I don't know that I want to put a limit on it.
Yeah.
Put as much in there as you can at this point, if we can do it.
Fine.
Well, my only question is, I want to say for this stuff too, and we obviously have some costs coming up, but I also know that we're worried about budgets all around and what the state's going to do and all that kind of stuff. So is it appropriate for us to put it in there, or might we need it for something else? And now, because once we put it in there, we can't use it, you know, it's earmarked, and it's earmarked for years down the road. So that's just my only question budget-wise is this one of those years to hold on to it out?
Like fund balance or something?
Right.
Yeah, and as you know, I'm pretty conservative with,
Yeah.
and I think that what we would try to do is balance, you know, those factors. I obviously will consult with Baird and take their advice, and the worst case scenario, remember, it's 12 months away from when we would be put it in. But we wouldn't, I don't think we'd make as big a contribution as we did a year ago, mainly for the factors that you just mentioned.
Okay. Manny, anything on this one? Good? Pat?
No questions.
Vicki?
No questions?
Yep, I'm in favor.
I'll move to allow administration to contribute more than the budgeted $25,000 to fund 46 for future capital improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. That concludes business. Information discussion, year-end teaching and learning. Whew.
The other important things that we do?
Good morning.
Michael.
Right.
Yeah, let me talk about something that really excites me because it helps to not only improve myself, but improve our organization. That's through our professional development and our collective work with each other. Dr. Spaguzzo pulls a slideshow up. One of the things we talk about when we worked with Teamworks over multiple years as a board, and then PLC leaders, administration, is that desired daily experience, both for our students, our staff, and for our families. And again, having that, our mission, vision, and core values, that strategic direction, the plan, and then going through our vision cards and then our school improvement plans all help lead to that. So it's about taking this complex system that we saw today as our board meeting. This is a very complex system that we all are part of. And how do we make sure that through reflection and adjustment that we're asking ourselves, how can we make sure that we're all rowing and that we're all rowing in that same direction? And some of the things we talk about are what are the things that are on our plates or rocks in our backpack? Why are they there? And what are some of those things that we need to simply tweak or refine? And what are some things that we truly have to remove from that, so that these random acts of improvement actually align and move the system forward versus an individual classroom or an individual teacher. One of our taglines is that we will be the best at getting better. Oftentimes, Dr. Spaguzzo talks about, and I talk about when we meet with the administrative team, with our PLC leaders, is that it's okay to be where we are, but it's not okay to stay there. So through a series of plan, do, study, and act, we then improve the system, and that continuous improvement leads to our new standard level of performance. And then we're always pushing the marble up the hill. And sometimes it's a boulder. I know I've presented this before, but we talk about perspectives. We talk about the schools that we attended, the school that we work in currently, and the school that we want to become. And the consensus across the district with our staff is that we want to be School D, where all students can learn, and we're going to do whatever it takes to help all of our students reach our priority standards and the things that we feel are important for our students. We started this work last year with our staff reflecting on both that student daily experience and the teacher experience of our academic model. And then we're going to continue to refine that as we do from, again, with our PLC leaders. Just a sort of overview of what really were those big professional development things that we did this year. Ms. Dusick talked about the phonics implementation of foundations down at the K2 level. At the MIS, we looked at instructional shifts, starting with clarity. How do we pause and elaborate when we're working with students? Pivoting and refraining when you call on the student and they just say, I don't know. So we looked at some of those instructional practices and shifts, and then also that active learning. How do we get the kids to be more visible in their learning, that we're seeing their learning, we're hearing them talk about their learning, and how do we do that? The secondary level, this really is year 3 of literacy focus. It's morphed a little bit over the years, and we've gotten some support. So I want to thank the board for their continued support of that CSA 11 purchase service for our secondary literacy. This year, one of the big things that came out was the digital notebooking, and we have Teresa Stanley, which works with our secondary staff on that. Obviously, at the high school, we went to the trimesters, and we also had hybrid, so again, best practices. And then as we went one-to-one, being able to shift some of that technology down to our middle school so we have more available down there as well. So how are we using technology really to support and enhance the learning for our students? So as we plan professional development, we don't just look at the next professional development day. We look at really a 3-year plan, and then how do we manage that into, as I put it, how do you eat an elephant? You take one bite at a time. So how do we manage those bites? I love this quote: if you don't know where you are or where you are going, any road can take you there. So really, when we talk about our data dig, which again, we'll be doing a 2-day data dig with our PLC leaders from across the district, it's really about taking that data and that information, taking that data and making it into information, and then from that, information that we just cannot ignore any longer. So how do we take that to impact what we do in the classroom, the adjustments that we make? We monitor this throughout the year. It's not just 2 days and then we're done. It really is throughout the year. And those early release Mondays really were needed because that gave us some of that time to do that this year. So again, thank you to the board, and really thank you to the families as well for their support in those early release Mondays, because with the COVID protocols, with the lost prepping and collaboration time that we had, those Mondays were pivotal for us to continue to grow as a district and not take a knee for a year or be stagnant. Again, it's okay to be where we are, but it's not okay to stay there. So really, the PLC leaders, we come together, it's 2 days, we make our tentative plans, we look at what some of our goals could be, and then that really helps focus our in-service week and what's the plan that goes on with that. Some things we're going to carry over from year to year, so looking forward to next year, again, we're going to be adding grade 3 to that foundations. We're looking at piling potentially some K-5 mathematics resources, again, going back to active learning. The secondary level, still staying with the literacy focus. Social studies will be looking at some resources that align to the new standards. And then student engagement, and how do we get more students authentically engaged? As you heard earlier, Kyle Schmidt is taking that on in his classroom with the creation of a Fab Lab. And how do we get kids learning by doing rather than learning by listening? So again, moving forward, times with the most challenges are also those times with the most possibilities. And that's really the way that we look at our 3-year plan for professional development. And again, it's the way that we as an organization get better. So thank you to the board for supporting us in that, in the ways that you can, like the early release Mondays and the purchase services that help support us and support me as teaching and learning and pulling that all together. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, thank you to you, the PLC teams, and the administration for continuing to focus on student learning and also for our staff learning. Both are critical for us as a learning organization. The second item, Josh, you weren't privy, but your colleagues anointed you and Sarah to present the next piece. On an annual basis, we are required to have an emergency preparedness training. We do operate around a focus of ALICE. We did provide you with a folder, and each of the principals presented their ALICE training throughout the year. We would just like to hit the highlights of what the expectations are and also meet our governmental need of making sure that it was publicly announced that we completed that with the school board.
Yeehaw. All right. This is what happens when you can't attend an admin meeting. You get elected to do things. So thank you. All right. So in terms of school safety, we are mandated twice a year to hold school safety drills and training for our students and staff. So at the secondary level this past month, we both held our drills and our training. At the high school level, our staff members took drill a little less literally this time. We retrained on the acronym of ALICE, Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. We looked at how to identify where a threat would be with students, and then they walked through just kind of some scenarios of where they would be safe, what they would do in a situation. I haven't touched base with Mr. Igo yet to know exactly what they did, but he assured me in the hall on the way back into our meeting that it went very well. So that's about all I can report to you. I do know that they did hold their training and their drill, though. I'm sure Sarah can give you much more detail on the remainder of the drills. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Smooth.
And I can ensure that the intermediate building did do theirs. I don't know exactly what they did. At the elementary building, we always kind of start with the premise of I'm not scared, I'm prepared. It's a book by Julia Cook. And it talks about Ant Hill School and a big bad wolf coming in, and what do? They either lock down and barricade or they evacuate. And we do a lot of work with that in the fall. And then this spring, we had the big dangerous someone, or the big bad wolf, was by door 3, which is by the kindergarten rooms. And the students and the staff had to use that information to decide, were they going to evacuate or were they going to lock down and barricade. So our kindergartners and first graders locked down and barricaded because of the location of the dangerous someone, and our second grade and other staff in the different wings of the building were able to evacuate appropriately. Reflection was that it was good to review the I'm not scared, I'm prepared that we had done in the fall, and that the students actually seem to enjoy the drills because it's kind of fun to push stuff up against doors and to run in a zigzag out of the building. So we try and make it as lighthearted as we can in a situation where we're talking about dangerous people entering our building. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We'll move on. COVID-19 update.
Yeah, well, we spent a lot of time on that, and I want to thank the board, obviously, for having to navigate these difficult times and thread the needle with many different stakeholders having different perspectives, but trying to balance both the wellness and safety of our students and staff in our learning environments, and also managing concerns of families. And know that that has not been lost. I know it has not been lost on all of you as a 5-member board. It has not been taken lightly by myself or our administrative team. It has been, as I said, probably the most difficult professional, as well as bleeding into a personal impact with regards to the 30 years that I've served in public education. I can guarantee that the decisions that were made tonight are not going to be precedent-setting in with regards to fall, meaning that we have a lot of work to do. I am hopeful with the mitigation and the ongoing vaccinations that are occurring. I mentioned those earlier in my introduction, and I have the slides up currently. So Red Wing, there are walk-in clinics tomorrow on May 20th. And then May 26th at the Ellsworth Pierce County Fairgrounds from 4 to 6. Everything that we can do to have more individuals within our community vaccinated is in our best interest to turning the chapter and having COVID behind us. I will continue to reiterate, we don't control COVID, it controls us. And so if things continue to progress the way they are, our fall of 2021 will be dramatically different, and you will see more normalcy, more socialization, and obviously masks being optional if a family wanted to. But I can imagine that some of the things that steps you took tonight are going to be more of the norm for the fall. But we never know, and so I can't guarantee, and who knows if we'd have an outbreak like India. So know that we will continue and come back to you in the summer, more than likely in August, with a very new and improved plan with regards to how programming would occur and the mitigation steps that we would take. Any questions about that?
Steve, any questions?
No, sir.
Tanya?
No.
Maddie? COVID? Pat?
No.
Vicky?
Nope.
Yes, I do not have any questions here. Thank you, Rick. So where are we at here? Are we going on to
We are
C3?
So just an update. Obviously, we had a special meeting April 28th. You selected a project manager for the upcoming phases number 1 and number 2 of your RFP. The school board has identified that it will have a work session on June 9th, which is a Wednesday, and that will be at 4 p.m. No business will be conducted. Rather, we will be having setting up a kickoff with our different stakeholders in the future. We have Baird Financial, who has worked with the school district before and is kind of the preeminent financial services around bonds, and it will describe the current health of the district, but it also will give you an update with regards to what the Prescott City Council has done with regards to TIF districts and a new allocation or a potential allocation of land and how that impacts mill rates. We have invited the city to participate, and the treasurer and the mayor, along with Jane Brandt, the city administrator. Market and Johnson, your project manager, will be pulling together kind of an outline and an agenda for the meeting, and SDS Architects. At this time, we're looking, because of the number of people, that it would be held in the Performing Arts Center, but we're still trying to identify what's the most conducive setting for all of us to work. So just a reminder, June 9th, 4 p.m. It is an open meeting, but it's allowing the board to conduct its business in a more informal way as it engages the 3 different vendors that you've partnered with.
Quick question on that, and maybe I'm kind of missing thing right now, maybe, but we normally have a time limit on those meetings. Do we have kind of an end time on that one, or are we?
Good question. At this time, we've set it at an hour and a half, so 90 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions? Anybody? All right.
Mike, that's an open meeting, right?
Yep.
Correct.
I mean, I sure hope that those listening, can attend and come to that open meeting. It's pretty important stuff that we're talking about.
And the goal will be kind of identifying timelines and meetings for the community. So it'll be how we will set up, engaging the community to better understand school finance, better understand the projects and timelines and the impact.
Pat, just piggyback off of what you said, this is one of the things that has been a newer practice of the board. I'd say past 3-ish or maybe even longer years, these board work sessions, and they were put in place so we could more informally have dialogue, talk, and the community could be involved more and hear kind of our thoughts behind some of the decisions. So it really is a good way for the community to understand what we're talking about, why we're talking about it. It's much more in depth than the conversation that is up here.
Most nights.
Most nights.
All right. Letter 5, number 5, Esther Dollars?
Yeah, Esther Dollars. So was on a conference call earlier today with 240 other superintendents. ESSER dollars are federal dollars that are coming through. As you know, ESSER $2, there will be a pretty stringent reporting and requirement. We will not report our enrollment data until August. Those federal dollars then would be allocated to us late fall. We can use the ESSER $3 for summer projects. I am working with Baird, and that'll be something that will be given an update to all of you at the June 9th meeting. This is why you have a fund balance. So fund balances are for cash flow. So your ESSER dollars are promised dollars. They get booked as a revenue, but they're not in your bank yet. And so the reason you have a fund balance is it's a cash flow issue, and you may choose that there are some things that you want to accomplish off of Mike Hoyka's work scope for the summer. And what are allowable expenses for ESSER dollars are HVAC. And so we do have an HVAC system at Malone Elementary that is beyond its lifespan, and new improved filtration during the time of COVID is appropriate. And then in MIS, there are some additional spaces that we've been looking at with regards to that are not instructional spaces. And so ESSER dollars can be used to reclaim that square footage, which would allow some of the interventionists that you've approved for us to hire to allow a little bit more of instructional flow at the Malone Intermediate School. And so we'll be giving an update both at the June 9th meeting, but then at the regular board meeting on June 16th.
Any questions or comments? All right, thanks. All right, we'll move on to D, update on board self-eval.
So as you know, I think it's been probably 18 months ago, the school board identified a new evaluation of the superintendent, but also had committed to doing a self-evaluation for continuous improvement of themselves and reflection. At this time, TeamWorks is just kind of reaching out, saying that their spring and summer is getting booked, and we had agreed that we wanted to do just kind of a refresher before you went through that self-reflection as 5 members with regards to your 5 strategic goals and the progress that you're making, and then also to look forward. And given that we have kind of a major session with regards to the referendum for February 2022, we wanted to try to make sure that we keep this on the radar, and we're curious about what month during the summer you would like to target so that I could reach out and get some dates from TeamWorks. If you look at June, you already have 2 meetings. July, I know, is a time that many of you take vacations, but then August, we were ramping up for school. So is there any direction you would like to provide me and Katie as we reach out to TeamWorks to try to identify a work session to go through the steps of a self-evaluation and process?
Yeah, I don't think we have to set a date here, but I'd be more interested in knowing if this is still something the board wants to do. If it is, we can try to find some time this summer in July or August. I don't know, or late June maybe, but we'd have to probably kind of take a look at our schedules, and if it's something we want to do, we kind of committed to it, I think, verbally. I don't know if we ever did a motion on it, but anybody have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we should do it.
I think we should too. We committed to it.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was a motion or not, but we
So
committed.
let's do this. Should we try to shoot for July and just see what we come up with? And if we can't find something in July, we'll go to August. And then if we can't find, so I think, but let's try to leave June out with just we got a couple big meetings there. Okay. Maybe late June we can start, but we'll try to find something. I'll work with Katie and TeamWorks. We'll come up with some kind of way to get feedback from the board on dates.
Yeah, I would just say the sooner the better, considering it's summer, just even if it's 3 months down the road, let's just put it out there and start holding it.
Sounds good. So Katie and I will work with TeamWorks to get some dates, and then we'll come back to you with a kind of a doodle calendar, or our Katie calendar, as we call it.
Maybe, yeah, there you go. Okay, that's information and discussion. We're on recognition of visitors. Is there anybody that would care to be recognized?
I promise I'll be fast.
Yeah, I figured you were waiting.
Yeah, I'm Tracy, for those of you who know me. And if you know me in any other capacity, I'm just here as a mom. I respect every single one of you, so even if my opinions disagree with you, please know that does not change the fact that I respect you. We don't have to have the same opinions for my respect to transfer to you. You made the decision to mask during summer school. While I disagree with that, or why that's not what my want, and I have 2 kids now that won't attend summer school for sure, and the third I'm not certain what we'll do. But then you turned around and decided not to mask for essentially athletes. So now my son that can't be an athlete due to physical limitations is kind of being discriminated against because he's more academic instead of athletic. So I just have some concern that you made that inconsistency and discriminated against a whole population of kids that aren't athletes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I think that's everybody in the audience. Is there anybody else that would care to be recognized? All right. We'll need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.